Hello and welcome to ReelTok episode 87. I am here with my lovely three co-hosts. Well, Tyler and George are here right now. Cam has just gone for a number two, so he will be back shortly. We've got a packed episode today. As you know, we've been kind of teasing all week on our letterbox, Twitters, yada, 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 that we are going to be doing a Planet of the Apes themed episode because of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which released this week. We'll be covering all 10 of the films. I had a couple of people message me because on Letterboxd, there's like a few of them. They were from a TV show that are just on Letterboxd for some reason. There's like 5 more. I don't know why they're there. So obviously we won't be going over those. George will also be giving his quick thoughts on I Saw the TV Glow as well, which I believe is releasing in the US next week. I'm releasing in the UK in 2033. So looking forward to that one. Basically, we're just going to go into how we've been getting on, and then we'll move on to Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and also touch on what we've been watching as well. George, how's your week been?
Sir, my week's been great. My week's been very hectic, very busy. We had a conference at work, which is yearly, so it only comes around once a year. So leading up to last Thursday was very hectic for just everyone I work with, very stressful. A lot of long hours, long days, just prepping. But it went well. It was all worth it. It was a great day on Thursday. Great conference. Great experience. So yeah, it was just a lot of work, a lot of apes, grinded away just as the three of you did as well. Just because I personally had never seen the original 6, which I hate to admit. But so I grinded away on those. Other than that, week was good. Yesterday being Saturday. Yesterday was a nice, beautiful day in the city. So spent some time outside. Went to the gym, went on a walk, sat on the East River a little bit, and just listened to music. And then came home and watched more Apes. So yeah, slow week in terms of just like how much I was doing, but busy week from a work and ReelTok POV.
Nice. Tyler, how's your week been?
Pretty standard for the most part. Been watching a lot of sports like usual. It's a big playoff time for sports right now, and so obviously I'm from Minnesota, but Dallas has kind of been my like adopted sports city since I was like, Minnesota is where my parents decided to have a baby, whereas Dallas is where I chose to move to and live most of my life before I ended up moving to Arizona, of course, for work, but moving back to Texas here soon. So big Dallas sports guy. Dallas is like the number 1 sports city in the world right now. So it's a fun time. Both the Dallas Stars in hockey and the Dallas Mavericks in basketball are pushing forward in the playoffs right now. Both won yesterday, so that was fun to watch. And then obviously the Texas Rangers won the World Series just a couple months ago. So Dallas is a good time for sports city. The Dallas Cowboys are surprisingly the lacking link of the bunch, the worst one out of the Dallas sports teams right now. But watching a lot of Stars and Mavericks, all NBA and NHL playoffs in general as well. Champions League's been pretty crazy too. I've been keeping up with that a bit and talking with a bunch of people in Discord. And yeah, speaking of people like patrons in Discord, once you join, I'm like insanely active in the sports one. So like basketball, hockey, and a little bit of, European football been talking, but basketball and hockey pretty much in there every day talking with a lot of our patrons. So those of you who are patrons and enjoy talking about that, who've been chatting with me over the past few weeks, shout out you guys. And then the past couple of days, like Riley and I've just kind of done a whole lot of nothing. We've just been like sitting around, lounging around the house, hanging out, doing nothing really productive, but just hanging out and having a fun time. So I haven't been really active on like any socials for the past like 3-4 days. Hoping today to get back in the swing of things and get back to posting content and being more up to date on film Twitter and all that kind of good jazz. But been a pretty relaxing week. And then this week heading to Washington, D.C. for a few days for work. So should be fun. Always fun visiting the nation's capital. Going to go interview the president. Not actually, but Alex Garland, Civil War joke. But yeah, been pretty chill week this week.
Nice. Yeah, for myself, I told you guys I went to the TikTok like HQ, I guess, in London on Friday. It was good. It was interesting. Basically just got sat down in front of like a bunch of the head of like creation team and stuff. Like they were introducing. It was weird. We were in like one of those like meeting rooms, where all the walls are windows. It's really cool. Like central London, high up, really nice. And they were basically like asking questions about new features they're going to bring in, asking us feedback and stuff. I was the only like film creator there. There was only 3 of us, and they were basically like from different. Everyone was different parts of the world. So there was like head of creation in LA. I think there's a couple of New York people there. There was like Southeast Asia. There was France, I believe. So that was kind of interesting. Like 30 people or so. And we had to like just do like an interview meeting in front of like that many people, which was cool. Good experience. Good to kind of meet people at the high ups and stuff, and get a chat with them. Met some really, really great people. So yeah, that was great. Really interesting opportunity there. Aside from that,
what did they ask you?
Loads, man. They were like, so some
is it just like, is it just Outlook stuff? Like, this is what we have planned. What do you think? Or is it like,
no,
what do you hate about the app right now? What do you like about the app?
It was like both. So it was like, sometimes they'd ask me, how do you find creating content like on the app, like the in-app editor and whatever? And then they would say, how has it been working with brands, like in general? And then they would say like, how you find the monetization on the app, or the creativity funds. And then they also went into new features. So it's basically just like they were asking us how creation is and how they can kind of improve it. And I was just like as honest as possible with everything. And yeah, it was good. It was good. It was interesting. So I think I'm going to have another meeting with someone soon. So that'll be cool. But yeah, it was a cool experience anyway. And then I met up with Henry and had a drink in London. So that was nice. Going back up I'm going to Comic-Con again.
Hell yeah.
No, not hell yeah. Go to one and you'll realize it's fucking hell. Like George will back me up on this. Only going for a day this time. It's in 2 weeks. Only go for a day because I don't want to go for more than a day. Same weekend as Furiosa, and I'm going to be back on Sunday for the pod so I can chat with the boys about the second best film of the year. I don't know, one of them. But yeah, cool week. Pretty shit other than that, to be honest. But yeah, nothing much else. Cam, how was your number 2 and how was your week?
That's a crazy question.
Appreciate the start. I'm good. All good. Easy. Good week. Hectic Mother's Day, as is all holidays for myself. Just going to every single house that we have. So Emma's dad's, Emma's grandma's, Emma's.
Is it today for you guys?
My family's. Yeah, it's today.
Okay.
So just driving all around Kingdom Come. Just because everyone wants to see Bailey, obviously. Other than that, easy week. Nothing crazy at all. Yeah, really nothing. Just don't have a ton of time, unfortunately, in the weekend. Wish I had more.
Fair enough, don't we all? I mean, we'll probably just go through like what we've been watching. Obviously, most people will know most of our weeks have kind of been Apeville this week. Just that's pretty much it. So, George, have you watched anything that's not in a part of the Apes film?
Yeah. First off, this episode does drop on Monday, May 13th. My mom's birthday. Shout out my mom. Love her to death. Yeah, happy birthday, Mrs. Carmi. Also, happy birthday, Robert Pattinson. She does share a birthday with Robert Pattinson. And happy birthday to my boy Matt. I know he'll be upset if I don't say happy birthday. 3 birthdays on May 13th.
On May 13th.
Big day.
Apparently.
But yeah, a lot of apes, obviously. Rewatched Fury Road. That joined my double-digit log club. So that's up there with Across the Spider-Verse and The Batman with having 10 plus logs.
In fact, you have 3 films with 10 plus logs.
Insane. And you know what's even more insane? Nalbus has logged House like 44 times.
Yeah, and Sammy's logged Spider-Man 2 like
19, 20 times.
Like crazy, man. So yeah.
I watched this movie called Uptown Girls, which is like it's a very cliche, like early 2000s, like dramedy. But I really liked it. It was a very interesting look at grief and maturity, and the movie just hit. And I watched it twice, and it hit both times because it hit the first time. And I was like, okay, maybe I was just in a weird state of mind. Let me watch it again and see if it still hits. And it still hit on second watch. So really good movie. Obviously, there was a Top Gun rewatch across the last week, naturally.
It's not that good, man. Give it up.
Dude, it's so good. It is so good.
Oh, no.
It's so good. And that's it. Wow, I don't know how I skipped over this. I saw the TV Glow, the latest from A24 coming from Jay Schoenbrunn. I'm gonna next week.
right? Because
we're going to talk that next week. Yeah, it comes out next week. I definitely want to do an in-depth discussion with you guys because the movie was insane. I've used the word insane more times over the last 3 days to describe this movie than I have in my entire life. The movie's insane. It's very dense. There's a lot to digest. So I'm actually happy we're discussing this next week because I do want to get around to watching it again before we talk about it. But the movie broke me like very quickly. The movie like absolutely destroyed me. It's weird because like while I was watching the movie, the imagery alone, there are like some sequences that are just so frightening. Even without context, like if someone showed you some of these sequences, you'd be scared, even if you didn't know necessarily what was going on. And then after the movie, these like moments of realization hit me on like what some of this imagery means when you look at it from like the trans experience, and it killed me. It broke me emotionally. And I swear I've never had that type of reaction to a film ever. So it was an insane experience. I haven't stopped listening to this soundtrack. I really don't want to like talk about it too high level right now because I want you guys to like experience this film without me saying anything, because it really is a film you need to just like experience. You need to feel. I think all four of us are going to take something different away from this film. That is how dense it is. That is how just compact it is with these like really deep thematic elements. So I am very excited for you guys to watch it and get your thoughts and then talk about it next week.
Did you say it's the scariest movie you've ever seen?
It is I shit you not, the first thing I said to Sophie when I left the theater was that was scarier than Hereditary. But it's like not like I texted you guys, not in like a traditional sense. Like Hereditary is fucking frightening, obviously, and there are some such shit, just scary sequences in Hereditary. But like in the back of your mind, you're always like, this is just not real. Like it's truly not like this is not happening. And then I saw the TV glow is scary in a sense that's like it's just like devastating because it's also like this really like fucking chaotic and just haunting look at mental health and like the imagery Jane Schoenbrunn uses to translate like just deteriorating mental health and what it feels like to like live in a world where like you're suppressing your true identity. Damn, I'm gonna start tearing up just talking about this movie. Really good movie, really fucking scary. I'm really excited to watch it again. There was a showing last night at 10:30 and I was like so close to going to it because I've really like never wanted to see a movie again so badly. But yeah, I'm excited for you guys to watch this and for us to talk about it next week because it's a lot. It's I expect this to be one of our longer conversations, honestly.
Nice. Tyler, what have you watched this week other than Apes?
Yeah, outside of the Apes, watch Role Models. That's the movie that I had on DVD when I was a kid and watched over and over and over, and then probably haven't watched it in like 10 years. So I gave it a rewatch. It's like a 3-star. I think it's like nothing revolutionary, but I think it's a fun comedy. I think Paul Rudd gets a little old playing like the insufferable adult, but I think some of the comedic elements are pretty funny. So I had a good time with Role Models.
Is Role Models the one that's the classic clip of like, congrats, you're stupid in 3 different languages? Is that what that is?
You know what Role Models?
Coffee scene?
Yes, the venti coffee.
The venti.
Yeah. Role Models.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I see that on TikTok once a week.
Yeah, it's fine. It's a solid comedy. I think it's like Netflix or something. Then watch the short Nothing Except Everything that everyone's been watching. Everyone's already kind of said exactly what needs to be. The thing is, I didn't I'd seen Gotham like one season of it, but for some reason I didn't remember. I thought that dude was like the director of the short, and then I was reading some other reviews and they're like, "How can you call this a student short film when you have like a Hollywood actor as a lead?" I was like, "Oh shit, that is the guy from Gotham." And like I'm like, "Well, that's why I got familiar. That's a straight up just real actor and like this like student film that had like 7 executive producers." So it's like an interesting spot because it's a student film. And it's getting heavily criticized, of course, for being, I mean, like George kind of touched on it last week, just incredibly thin, shallow, cringe, all kind of words. Yeah, just like every trope bundled into one coming of age short. And then, you have people saying like, oh, it's a student film, you shouldn't be criticizing it as much. And then you have other people being like, it has like literally like Hollywood level executive producing, and you have like all the actors in are like have lengthy IMDb's. So like at what point, and like there's connections in the industry. So like what point does your student film leave the student film sphere? I feel like if you have the lead actor played Bruce Wayne on Gotham as your lead actor, you can't really like call yourself that much of a student film at some point because you're straight up using Hollywood people. But nevertheless, it was very bad. Watched the roast of Tom Brady. Pretty brutal, honestly. Like I get it. You get paid a lot of money to be roasted, and it's like all for fun. But personally, for me, I would never want to do that. And the thing is, like, there's so many strays too, because it's a roast of Tom Brady. But like people will go up there and just start roasting like people who played with Tom Brady, his coaches, like the owners. Is like, damn, like if one person in your life signs up for a roast, you got to be prepared to just catch all kinds of strays because no one was safe in this roast. Everyone's getting roasted. And then Kim Kardashian was booed during the roast, and then I saw Netflix like edited that out. That's interesting. I thought that was really weird that they like edited out the part where people are booing her because like did she just like cut a check to Netflix? It was like, yo, don't let them boo me.
She did. She 100% did.
Yeah. Insane move. Just classic Kardashian move. Self-Portrait, Owen's latest short film that I think is released now at this point. You know, we're all exclusive club members to where he'll send us short film links early, but I think it's released at this point. Genuinely my favorite one he's done yet. Very cool. Go check it out. If it's on his YouTube, I'm like 99% sure it's out there now. And then again, a lot of Apes. Rewatched Little Miss Sunshine. Just a great bundle of joy while also being such a bundle of devastation. Like it's such a feel good yet feel bad movie at the same time, but just something about it so comforting. Alan Arkin, one of the GOATs, rest in peace. Riley and I are starting to watch through all the Star Wars, and she decided she wanted to go chronological order in terms of she wants to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Oh, you should watch it now.
You think that's how you should watch it now?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean,
did you see?
If you have the option to do chronological, you do chronological and those things.
Did
you see Nalbus's tweet about Star Wars? I thought it was funny. He like quote tweeted some Phantom news Menace thing that basically said, "Yeah, Phantom Menace is like the most watched movie on Disney Plus," and he's like, "Yeah, that's because everyone watches one Star Wars movie and just gives up after that."
Yeah, I mean, it's low key correct. Like that's like why it's number one on there. There's no other explanation for why that would be the most watched Star Wars film on there, other than that. Because I mean, we watched the first one, and it'll be a while before we watch number 2. Like I don't know, but as you all fellas with significant others know, like people are like, why would you not start with 4? It's like when you have someone who's not that interested in something, you're trying to get them into it. I know Phantom Menace isn't as good as A New Hope, but a movie from 1999 just has such a better chance than a movie 25 years earlier to get someone invested. So I just knew going into number 4 right away might be, even though it's a better movie, might have been a dagger before Star Wars Watch even gets started. Just being like, this is old, bad, you know, you got to ease them in the right way. But she liked it more than me. She gave it a 3-star. I give it a 2.5 star. I can't get on board with the whole revisionism. I thought a lot of it I just still don't care for whatsoever.
Not good.
Yeah,
it's not good.
Not great.
I love it.
Jake Lloyd's the only performance I enjoy in that movie. I think everyone else is pretty shit.
Yeah, not even you. I saw you say that in your review. Not even Liam Neeson.
No,
he's so good as Spy God. He's so cool.
I respect Jake Lloyd a lot. I think he's the worst performance in that movie. I respect him a lot. I'm sorry for what happened to him, but
it's Duel of Fates is really funny to watch back on too, because like the score is incredible. And I can't remember who I saw tweet this. Someone said like that they think the score carries the Duel of Fates scene.
It does. It's an over choreographed.
Maybe it was you, but yeah.
I don't think I tweeted that.
I like the scene, like, but I said it was silly, and I didn't say that in a negative way. Like, and people were like saying I'm like hating on it, but no, it's like a silly scene, like you said, Cam. It's like so over choreographed to the point of like ridiculousness, but like that's fun. Like I enjoyed seeing them flip and.
It's also frustrating because earlier in this movie they used the Force Run and they never use it again in Star Wars.
I remember you tweeting it.
Yeah, when you can Force Run through these ray beams, that would have been useful. I think like you could getting past quicker. You know, it's just a little of a frustrating watch. That's like CinemaSins kind of like critique, but.
No, but it was funny because I loved Star Wars as a kid, but I haven't watched it a ton since, and I forgot Force Run even exists. Because is that literally the only time they ever do it ever in Star Wars?
Ever.
Because it happened early on. I was like, "What the fuck was that?"
Honestly, as a kid, I really thought it was like an editing error. Like
I thought that was what it was too. When it might have been at the time, and now they've just like canonized Force Run.
But like I was like so jarred as a kid watching that scene.
Yeah, but pod racing scene was fun. I like crazy racist movie, and like I was like kind of like live texting the group chat like Riley's thoughts while she was doing it because I didn't want to put anything in her head. And like 10 minutes in, she's like, "This is like extremely racist." And then I put that in my review, and of course, like a lot of people were like, "How is it racist?" I'm like, if you haven't watched it recently, I'll cut you some slack. But if you watch it, like it's like very obvious throughout the entire thing, and then also just throughout the whole movie, Riley's just like commenting all the time. She's like, "God, Jar Jar Binks is so fucking annoying." I'm like, "Yeah, he is.
I like him.
I like Ahmed best. I like what he's done for.
I like him,
but Jar Jar Binks sucks, man.
Yeah.
It's not his fault.
Jar Jar Binks is a fine character, but like they add in like so many scenes where Jar Jar's not even involved. They'll just add in stupid dialogue for him. Yeah, just annoying, racist. Blech. But yeah. The Phantom Menace was it's fine. It's whatever.
Shout out on Ahmed Best. I think it was The Mandalorian, like season 2 or maybe 3. He gets to play a Jedi in there at some point. Like he
good for him.
He got screwed by him originally, but gets to come back.
Yeah, good for him. So we'll see if we continue our Star Wars watch through. Attack of the Clones, of course, being next, which I'm sure I'll like more than Phantom Menace because just nostalgia from being a kid. Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith were like the top 2 for my kid watch through. And then the only other thing other than Apes was watch Wildcat, the latest film directed by Ethan Hawke, starring Maya Hawke, about the life of Flannery O'Connor. Similar to the movie Emily from 2 years ago, if any of you watched that with, what's her name? She was on the short list. Emma Mackey. It's like, for that one, I think it's like Emily Bronte, who is like the author. If you're into them and you're like familiar with their works, I feel like you get more out of it. For me, I don't know Flannery O'Connor. I'm not familiar at all. So like a lot of this story was pretty uninteresting to me. It's based on almost similar to like Wes Anderson's Roald Dahl shorts. It's a bunch of her shorts kind of meshed together, but this is to make one full movie. You have like Liam Neeson in it and Cooper Hoffman in like minor supporting roles. So Ethan Hawke as a director, I guess, just has access to crazy actors, even though they're just going to show up for like two lines. But it was like a 2-star for me. I didn't care for it much, but yeah, that's all I've been watching.
I did see a review. I liked the Hawke family innocent, even though they did everything in the movie.
Yeah, Hawke family innocent, even though it was directed by Ethan Hawke, led by Maya Hawke, and produced by 3 Hawks. I still the Hawke family's innocent.
Like it.
Come, did I ask you? I don't think I should.
No, but I didn't watch anything other than this morning while I was making breakfast. I turned on other than Apes, obviously. I turned on
Coco Melon.
Days of Future Past. So fucking good, man.
Good film.
So good, man. So damn good.
There are days where I want to rank it above Logan.
Nah,
I don't know if that's a hot take.
It's a good movie. It's not that
It's so good.
It's
so good.
Cam, did you finish Baby Reindeer?
Yep. Oh yeah. Okay. So Baby Reindeer. Just real quick, Baby Reindeer.
I want to hear your thoughts. I've been waiting for this. I was supposed to ask you last week.
Did you watch it, Seth?
Yeah. I was there.
Baby Reindeer for me was a super frustrating watch. So what it is, it's 7 episodes, I believe. They're about 30 minutes long. And it's a good series, don't get me wrong. And it's emotional, but it's really frustrating for me because the first 3 episodes are this guy who's getting, I'm going to spoil the show for the most part. So just, if you haven't seen it, turn your ears off. The guy for the most part is getting stalked, and you just know he's getting stalked and he's just a wimp and he's not doing anything about it for the first 3 episodes. That's what you know. And so that's where like Emma and I got through the first while we were watching like
I wouldn't say he was a wimp.
Oh yeah, he was. He was doing everything wrong in the first couple episodes. No, I'm not talking.
It's a real person. What do you mean?
Episode 4, and yeah, it's the person who created the show, which I think is crazy and episode 4 is where you get the backstory, Seth. So episode 1 through 3 is just him getting stalked, and this girl is crazy, and she's doing insane things to him. Wimp's a bad word. He's in a horrible situation, but he's making every wrong mistake. He's not calling the cops. He's not like telling her no, basically. He's not, I mean, like sometimes he tries and then she gets mad and then like,
which is a common occurrence.
I understand. I understand. It's just, it's frustrating from a sense like this has never happened to me. I feel for this person. Like this is horrible. And I can't like put myself in the shoes in any way. So I'm glad like he's able to make this show now and like able to like talk about it. Cause clearly like there is backstory that's caused him to be this way. But for the first 3 episodes you're watching and you're like, this motherfucker It would be such an easy. Okay, so in the first episode, he Googles the woman, and she has already been to prison for like 3 years for stalking and this, and this. You could just call and say, hey, this person's stalking me right now. She's getting millions of emails from her. This would be the easiest case to put away so quickly. Episode 4, you get a backstory on him. He's had a horrific life. He's been assaulted and molested many times. And it's terrible. And this is like explaining like how he's gotten to this place where he doesn't feel like confident in himself to say no. And he actually like, he's never been given the attention that he deserves. So he's like a little bit, he kind of wants the attention a little bit. So you understand him a little bit more. And again, horrific things have happened to him. And I feel so sorry for him. It's just after this, you think like things are going to take a turn now that you've gotten this backstory. You think things are going to maybe take turns in 5, 6, 7, and they do some points. Like he eventually the woman goes to jail and things like that. But like the big thing was don't let her get his phone number. When things are going good for him, she eventually gets his phone number, of course, leaves him millions of messages and stuff like that. And I think that's eventually how he gets her caught, if I remember correctly. Because he just shows her all the evidence of like the millions of phone calls. And then after, like, he's clearly made a leap from where he was at. So like, I applaud him for that. But afterwards, he's still just making the wrong decisions. He has a girlfriend throughout the show, but he can't like commit to her because he's still like thinking in the back of his head about this woman who's stalking him. And it's just a really, really frustrating watch. Again, putting yourself in his shoes would be incredibly hard. It's just like every decision he makes is wrong, and it's hurting himself even more. And it's just a hard watch at that point. But I think the show itself is really good, and it's also 7 episodes, and there's like episode 4 is only 45 minutes, but the rest are like 30. And so it's a super quick watch, really easy. It's not a 8-episode anthology series where it's 8 hours long. Like we breezed through it in a weekend, which was nice because we don't really do that with TV shows. But it's a good watch. And then just, it's just kind of a frustrating watch for me, especially the first 3 episodes. That's where I said, like, we watched on the first day, and like everything he does is so wrong. But Seth, you can give your thoughts if you.
I think I already reviewed it, didn't I? Did I?
I believe so. Yeah.
I think I reviewed.
I just wanted to hear Cam's thoughts because I know he's watching through them.
Yeah, it's one of those things you can't take lightly. Like, I've never been in this situation, so I have no idea how I would have acted. And it's a true story, so you can't be like, this is a dumb fucking TV show. Like, this would have been over in seconds. It's a true story, but it's very difficult for me to just watch and be like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, his girlfriend's like pleading him to just telling him like, go to the police. Like, it'd be super easy. And like, he's just not doing it. And it's frustrating. And then
we were about to turn it on and watch it, but Riley decided she wasn't interested. So we did not much Baby Reindeer.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Also, I don't know. Did you guys shout him out? We got a new executive producer this week. Drew
Where?
Rodriguez.
I literally am looking through Patreon. There's no one existing. That's new. We were looking at that before. Like, there's no new executive.
Because I pulled it up. I pulled it up. Either way, I'm shouting him out.
Shouting who out?
Drew Rodriguez.
Shout out you.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, he is a
$25 tier, which is not an executive producer tier.
What's the executive producer tier?
50.
Oh, shout out you anyway. But,
all right, shout out Drew. But how's
shout out you anyway?
So Cam basically was like right before the pod. Cam's like, we got a new executive producer, and we were like, oh, that's sick. Like, I got to make sure to update this to shout him out. And I was like, where? Like, we have no new executive producer. I was like, Cam's going crazy.
That is
but shout out Drew for joining the tier that's going to let you suggest movies, which we'll talk about at the end of the episode, what movies and drafts we're doing this week.
That's my bad. I thought we only had 2 tiers. I didn't realize we
got 3. Got to get with the program, man. Get with the program. Have any of you seen Nathan For You? That's also what I've been watching this week. Started that with Riley. Good show. Fun show. Nathan Fielder, he did The Curse with Emma Stone. It's kind of that deadpan comedy. He's kind of like exploding, he's been exploded, but he like owns like every show he releases.
He's the guy popular. That does the like, he needs to escape from this trap, otherwise he'll risk something worse than embarrassment. It's becoming a registered sex offender.
Is
We watched
Nathan
that
for
episode
you?
last night. Yeah.
Is that the one where he like tries to like revamp businesses as like he sees fit?
Yeah, and he'll go and just like suggest the stupidest things to businesses, and of course
Okay.
they're like, "Who the fuck is this guy trying to tell me to do this stuff?" But some ideas genuinely make a lot of sense.
He's
And,
he's
I
a
enjoy
funny guy when he
It's
hits,
like it's the
he's
type of
so
humor
funny.
you either like it or you don't. But
Yeah.
I didn't know if I would. I didn't think I would, honestly. But we've been enjoying it, and it's one of those we watched it one night, and then the next night Riley was like, "Let's watch some more." So that's always a good sign. So yeah, Nathan, for you, thumbs up. There's like 4 seasons, so I'm really late to the party, but I'm enjoying it. Seth, what have you been watching?
Not much. I watched Mr. Bean's Holiday. Shout out Willem Dafoe. I watched that new horror that people are speaking about, that like spider one, the French horror, came out this year. Fine if you don't like spiders, like stay fucking far away from that. It's very disgusting. And I watched I was in a bit of a Star Warsy mood the other day, so I watched the best Star Wars film,
Empire Strikes Back.
Empire Strikes Back.
I was worried you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was nervous you were going to pull the.
No,
last
I've always been.
I know you have.
Come on, give me some credit.
It's even
I've
number
always
one for
been
me
an
now
Empire.
too. It's a consensus number one.
I've always been an Empire guy. It was great. I really enjoyed it.
Wait,
but
is this the one franchise where we all agree on the number one movie?
now, yeah, probably.
And I mean franchise. Like, don't pull
Oh
out
no,
like
Middle-earth,
Dark Knight.
Middle-earth, maybe Middle-earth.
The
Return of the
Fincherverse.
King. Social
Return-
Network.
I would the Fincher.
I have Return of the King as number one. I think Seth and George do. Tyler.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, Return of the King one.
But like, we don't have the same Harry Potter movie. Definitely not the same Marvel movie.
We do have the same Harry Potter movie. don't we?
Definitely don't have the same Apes movie.
We definitely have the same Transformers movie, right?
Yeah.
Is
One.
the best.
I mean,
One.
I only see.
Okay.
It's one or the last one.
I think we have more in common than you think, George.
All
we
right,
not have the same Harry Potter movie, George.
Same Pirates is number one.
Prisoner of
Number
Azkaban.
Yeah, Prisoner of Azkaban, Alfonso Cuarón, best one by
No,
far.
it's not
Yeah,
Not
Cam's.
for me. No.
Oh, fuck
Never.
you guys, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, I knew that wasn't Cam's.
Pirates of the Caribbean,
The first one.
the first one.
First one.
Yeah.
Hollywood,
Which one?
Pirates of the
Hollywood,
Caribbean.
the original.
Curse the
Oh
Black.
yeah, Curse of the Black Pearl. Yeah.
Okay, my bad, guys. Sorry for the
Really
dumb.
stupid topic, George.
Jesus, fuck me.
Okay, right. We'll move on to our kind of main review of the week, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, kind of the new installment in the modern franchise, directed by Wes Ball. Just to run through the synopsis: several generations in the future, following Caesar's reign, apes are now the dominant species and live harmoniously, while humans have been reduced to living in the shadows. As a tyrannical new ape leader builds his empire, one young ape undertakes a harrowing journey that will cause him to question all that he has known about the past, and to make choices that will define the future for apes and humans alike. I believe, George, you didn't get the chance to watch this. Am I right?
Yeah, I didn't. I'm sorry, guys. That's bad podcasting. I was gonna go last night. I was so tired and knew if I was sitting in a theater, I'd have such a shitty experience. And I grinded too many Apes films this week. I'm sorry. It's the one I didn't watch.
It was a lot of apes this week.
It was a lot of Apes.
We should have been prepared for this weeks in advance.
Yeah, this is not a franchise to binge. No.
Yeah.
No,
Spread the
Too
apes.
much.
This is the
Apes.
first
Whereas like
Impressive.
Ryan Gosling, I was a little Ryan Goslinged out, but like still every new movie I was like enjoying it. Whereas
Yeah, but it's
I
a
think
different.
that
It's
is-
not. It's just different films. isn't it?
Yeah.
right, exactly. Very different, but still Apes back to back to back. It was too much, man.
I think we'll start. We'll start with the lowest, and then we'll get like gradually, a little more positive and get a bit, happy. Tyler, spoiler-free
On
thoughts.
board.
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I think the world was super cool. Like, obviously, this is definitely the least. Well, I'm trying to think back to all like the originals now, so it's getting tough. But I'd say this probably the least human screen time of an Apes movie of the 10. Would you say that's probably
I
accurate? There's
would
probably
say
some originals
so.
that are close, but even the originals like with Charles Heston and the Charles Heston lookalike, like they're in it a lot. Like this one, we don't
Charles.
get. There's very minimal human in this. So
Yeah, I would say so.
which
There's only
elicits
one-
a very
Well,
interesting.
no, we need to talk in spoilers. There are two humans in this, which was a shocker to me. But there's really only one for the most part.
No,
Why
he's
is
got
that-
a decent part.
Why is it spoiler? There's 2 humans. You thought there'd be more?
I
or
don't
something?
think it was. I don't think the second human was in the trailers.
I didn't know he was going to be in it.
I didn't. To be fair, he caught me off guard. I was like, "Whoa,
He,
William!"
he caught me
Apes, is
so
it?
off guard.
Yeah,
Let's-
he did,
let's
he
pause.
did.
That's a
Yeah, and
spoiler.
we'll talk about him in spoilers because there's a couple things I want to say about him. So it's a he. I guess that's all we've given away.
Yeah.
I did
but-
just say what his name was.
Oh, I actually didn't hear you.
I didn't hear it. I think.
Okay, well,
If you didn't hear him
you
either,
heard
don't
it,
rewind the pod.
We'll go back.
if you heard it, don't reverse.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that like we're acting like is like the biggest spoiler of all time, and it's just simply
big cameo.
But yeah, since there is such minimal humans in this, it creates such an interesting playground for West Ball to play with here, where you can really just lean into the visual graphics, like generated worlds that are tougher to obviously do than if you're having a lot of humans interacting. So the world was super fascinating. Like you start with these factions that apes have grown into. That you have like the falconry faction. You have that's kind of the main one that's sticking in my head remembering. But then you have like the apes that
the Eagle Clan. I think you were right there with both.
The Eagle Clan, falconry and Eagle. Well, friggin' sick, like awesome. Like I wanted to, which is what I thought was interesting, because I don't know if when West Ball was creating this movie, if they had already like locked in the whole thing that came out this week of like there's going to be 5 more Apes movies or whatever. So I don't know if he knew that going into this, but I feel like if they knew that going into this, they easily could have made like a whole movie just about the different ape factions and like their inner workings together. And that whole final act, kind of like how Dawn is a little bit of a setup to war, could have just had this whole final act of like these factions finally colliding, be like a whole separate movie. But I like the fact that they didn't make us wait. They didn't just make this a whole setup for that, even though with like 5 more movies in the can, they could have just like set this whole universe, be like, okay, we're generations away from Caesar at this point. Let's just lay the foundation for a movie of what we're looking like right now with the current world. So I enjoyed that there was a little bit of both. The first hour and a half, I'd say, are super meditative, super background intensive. It's not like a general blockbuster, I'd say, in terms of where it's not going to be War of the Planet of the Apes, where it's action packed front to back 24/7. I feel like this has a lot of world building, which I did enjoy a lot, because I think the visuals are quite stunning and captivating. I think in the Reeves trilogy, I mean, I know Rise isn't Reeves, but a lot of grayscale, a lot of dark, gritty world building there. Whereas this, get a lot more luscious, a lot more greenery, starting to overtake the world as humans are becoming less prevalent. World's starting to become looking like a lot more like nature. So visually, I really like this. People have said it before, but you know how James Cameron's been saying he's looking for someone to take over the Avatar franchise. I think West Ball is like the best audition tape you could kind of ever give out there, because I know a couple other people were saying the final act is very similar to like Avatar: Way of Water. Looks great. I think everything CGI wise, visual effects wise, incredible stuff they're doing in these movies, and it was genuinely awe-inspiring the entire time how they're able to create this. We'll talk about the one person we know is going to be in it because they're in the trailers and in the poster. Freya Allen, I thought was just awful. It's terrible. Not a single line I thought was interesting. I thought her performance was just truly, truly bad. I nothing positive to say about that. So I almost wish it was just like a purely Apes movie, just because didn't care for anything that she was involved in. And then I saw someone before I even saw it tweet about this, which then it was stuck in my head the whole time I was watching the theater, was like that it looked like she just had like freshly put on lip gloss the entire movie, and it was so distracting. So then like I saw that tweet and then I was watching, I'm like, damn, it really does look like she just had freshly lip gloss on the whole movie. But that's kind of all I'll say for non-spoilers. I thought it was the final act, I think, might be one of the coolest acts of the entire franchise of all 10 movies. Like that final few scenes was so incredible. But the rest of it, I liked. I didn't really dislike anything about this movie. I just think most of it, I was like, yeah, I'm liking this. And then the final act, I was like, yeah, I'm really loving this. But mostly it just landed around like a 3-star for me.
Fair. Come, thoughts?
Yeah, this is a movie I more so like to talk about like in spoilers, so I'll keep this brief. I liked it a lot. 75 out of 100 for myself. Low 4-star, but I was a big fan of it. Your main characters, Noah and May, are the 2 mains, and then you have Raka and then Proxima Caesar. I thought they were all great. I really liked May, actually, and I really liked that Noah and May, like their relationship wasn't Noah was just like the one ape that's like cool with humans. Like I feel like that's a classic trope. Like he didn't really like her, she didn't really like him. I like that. I like that dynamic of it. And then Raka's kind of the wise orangutan that's teaching Noah about like Caesar's actual teachings, whereas Proxima Caesar is
He's the goat.
Yeah. Not like my boy Maurice, but he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's not quite Maurice.
He's no Maurice, but I liked Noah's character enough. Definitely not Caesar by any means, but it's hard to get there in one movie, right? Even though if you just give like one no scene to someone, I'll like them a bunch. And I think that's why Caesar's so beloved, just because that one chanting no scene.
The only scene people speak about in Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Rise, yeah. I like Rise. But yeah, I like the movie. Like Tyler said, it's very colorful. It's fun. It's definitely different from the Reeves universe where it's not as dark and gloomy. And I still like those movies for being a little more dramatic. But this was a fun one to watch. And it definitely didn't feel like a rehash of the last 9 that I had watched. Well, I guess I'd watched 7 prior to it and then 2 others after. But it didn't feel like a rehash of those. So I appreciate it for that. Definitely common themes, but like Tyler said, there were a bunch of different clans. The clan we focus on being the Eagle clan, I would have really appreciated like seeing just one other, just kind of glimpse into it, just to get a little bit more backstory onto these clans. But then the kingdom itself is like under Proxima Caesar, and I like that he just wants all power and kind of wants to be the Caesar of this universe, but he's doing it in a forceful manner, whereas everyone followed Caesar because he was a leader, whereas Proxima Caesar is just forcing his way onto it. Big shout out to Kevin Durand, because I think he did an amazing job with his mocap, performance capture, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the difference is, but I said like mocap the other day and someone corrected me saying performance capture. So I don't really know what the difference is, to be quite honest with you, versus motion capture. But like his eye acting, I assume performance is just like acting through it. I don't know. But his eye acting is so good in this. Like he looks just like a threat always. Just needed more Proxima Caesar. It was a bit too much of a setup, which I understand you have to. But if you're going to give us this great of a villain, maybe don't take him out in the first movie. Like we might talk about Koba and why he's so great in the future. But that might have been a spoiler.
That was a massive spoiler. You just spoiled the whole film. You just spoiled the whole film.
My bad, everybody. But it's
people aren't going to be happy at you. People are not going to be happy at you.
So sorry. I assume most people that are listening to this have watched it, but if you haven't,
no, that's why we've got spoiler sections.
I know. I didn't mean to. If you haven't, I'm so sorry. But I'll shut up because, like I said, I want to talk spoilers. I liked the movie a lot, though.
The whiplash going from being terrified you spoil the name of an actor, that's like pretty inconsequential, to now just spoiling that in the movie.
Just said the end of the film.
It's a major blockbuster. I feel like it's not the worst spoiler in the world, but yeah,
it's pretty bad.
It's the main thing. It's the thing.
I'm so sorry, everybody.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean, I realized probably like this the most. I give it the same as Karma 4, probably like a higher 4, if I'd say. We'll go on to our rankings later on. I like this a lot. I do think it's a little bit of a mess. I think especially in the second act, I think it kind of like meanders and just doesn't really know where it wants to take it. It kind of becomes a little bit of a road trip film, which I like, because I think the visuals are so absorbing, just so colorful and like very like everyone has said, very like it's sort of Avatar-esque. Truly absurd, the visuals, really, and then especially the opening as well when they're kind of climbing and finding those eggs. That just looked fucking incredible. Really, really great. I like that it kind of flips it on its head, and kind of obviously now the apes are this dominant force, in the future. I do like that a lot. And I think they kind of, Cam went into the relationship between Noah and what was her name again?
May.
Cora.
Nova.
Nova.
Real name is May.
Yeah. I like the relationship between those two, because it's kind of that, interpretation of coexisting when, realistically they don't like each other, and exploring that, which is something that's been explored in Apes films before, but it's something that will continue to be, because Apes films have a very prevalent, very prevalent themes throughout, and they all kind of remain similar, but doing, kind of a different way. And I do appreciate the difference in it, in terms of like looking at technology, especially what we see in the end, which obviously we'll go into. Yeah, I think it was really, really great. I think the whole like sort of revenge narrative is very, I think I said this in my review, very like fundamental, doesn't really break any revolutionary boundaries in terms of storytelling, but it kind of has this ferocity within that kind of final act that I really appreciated. And I did feel it as well, and more than some of the others in the franchise actually felt kind of the stakes. It doesn't kind of bombard you with exposition a lot within the opening, but that was kind of expected going in. But to be honest, I was expecting not much from this at all. Like, I don't know much about Wes Ball. I know that he did like Maze Runner, I think, which I haven't seen in a long time. And I know he's actually doing the new like Zelda film, which is interesting. It's a big task to take on, especially in live action. But I think that he might have the juice, you know what I mean? And I think that whilst it's maybe not as sweeping as or as bombastic, I would say, as like Reeves's efforts as War and Dawn, it kind of has this, you know, intimate level where you can really feel the emotion, especially in that early period with kind of him and his tribe and his family with Noah. So I really liked it. I give it a 4. Pretty good 4 as well. I heard a lot of people complain about the running time, which I get. Don't get me wrong. I think it's actually the longest in the whole franchise. I think it's just a slight bit longer than War, which is like 220, and it's like 225, I think. So yeah, the longest franchise. I personally had 0 issue with the length, but I definitely understand why people do, because it's again longest in the franchise, and I really like the way it ended as well. But we'll kind of go into spoilers. Any place you want to start, or you kind of want to run through it?
First, I just want to say shout out Wes Ball, like the coolest tweet ever, like calling your shot. I don't know if you guys saw that from January 29th, 2010. Wes Ball tweeted, so 14 years ago. Since I could never even hope to have the chance to direct it, the next big motion capture Avatar-like movie should be The Legend of Zelda. Kind of like the coolest 14-year call.
Yeah.
I think I did see this on Twitter. Actually, that is cool as fuck. Yeah,
that's crazy.
It is his favorite video game as well, isn't it? I think I saw something IGN. That's really cool.
So that's going to be just like the passion project of all passion projects. And clearly from this movie, we saw he has the motion or performance capture juice completely locked down. But spoilers. I mean, we already touched on 2, but I'll touch on the one that we were close to spoiling because we didn't really spoil. I mean, the other one's kind of fully spoiled, but William H. Macy is the other human in this movie.
Out of nowhere, in my opinion.
I was trying to word this in a way that didn't sound like weird in my review, but genuinely, like the way his facial structure is and his goatee, he looks like he'd be like an ape human hybrid. He has a very he low key looks like he could be one. I didn't know which team he was on.
I do kind of know what you mean.
It's like he has such a long, because his face looks very I feel like it also looks like the classic Lady and the Tramp dogs, like it's a very long face. And he has that goatee too, and he looks disheveled in this movie. But yeah, he comes out of nowhere because, like Cam said, or when he said that he's not in the trailers, poster. He's pretty buried down on the cast list, so not really anything you would expect going into this
You might
movie.
think he's like, if you see him on the cast list, you might think he's like just playing an ape or something.
Yeah,
not on Letterboxd, I wouldn't say, because he's like 4th down, isn't he, on Letterboxd?
Yeah, but that's still anything after Noah and May. I would just assume it's an ape of some sort.
Yeah, it's fair to assume that in these movies for sure, because they do have like solid actors that are doing the performance capture. But yeah, his Trevathan, I believe is his name. Trevathan.
Yeah.
But yeah, did not expect to see him in it. But I really like William H. Macy, and he's not, I don't know, he's not like super massively I don't know. I found the humans in general this movie, except obviously the very end where we'll get to that, where they connect the universe, they get the satellite connected, and then the world's starting. They are Fort Wayne, Indiana. That's multiple movies they shot out Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Yeah, because
the very first movie I think is where like the astronauts from.
That was the callback. Is what's his name? Who's in the first movie?
Charles Heston.
Yeah, but what's his Taylor? Maybe it is.
Taylor.
I think. Yeah, he's from Fort Wayne, Indiana. Which when I was watching that, I was like, hell yeah! Shout out Indiana, man.
They get. I wonder. It's like the creator of this universe from Fort Wayne or something, because it's such an odd city to call it. It's like it's not even like Indianapolis, but so that's what like kind of this isn't something that frustrated me, but I want to know what the timeline is of these movies, because Rise, Dawn, and War very clear. It's like I think Rise is like 2008ish, and then Dawn says 10 years later, and then War says like 2028 now. So very clear. And then the original one, the original 6, you have a very clear timeline of like 35, 36, and then a couple of years later, they all follow it.
300 years after War.
Is that confirmed though? Because all it says in the movie is several generations later.
It was confirmed prior to the movie. I don't know if it was like confirmed by Wes Bell, but I think when it was announced, it was like 300 years.
Okay, so then there's still like a 1,200 year gap then between this and Dawn and this and Planet of the Apes 1968.
Yeah.
Okay, so Fort Wayne, Indiana must become like the New York City of this planet. It's just like, it has 1,000 years of dominance of that being the premier spot.
When Deadline announced it was 300 years after.
Okay. Because that's what I was trying to piece together. Because I guess I missed that article. Because of course, all they say the very opening of the movie, it says like several generations after Caesar. So I was like, that could mean so many things. So I want to know what the timeline looks like. Because Rise, Dawn, War, very clear. 1968 through Battle for the Planet of the Apes, very clear. And then obviously Tim Burton's isn't part of the timeline. But yeah. I'll let other people touch on some spoiler stuff and what we kind of want to get into here.
Yeah, I think just like going through the movie a little bit, it starts off with your clans, right? And you get him collecting that eagle egg. And what kind of takes this movie on its journey is like he breaks his eagle egg, or he gets in a fight with May, right? And that breaks the eagle egg, if I'm not mistaken.
No, he jumps
break?
across. So he has the eagle. Let me think now. So this right. So at the start, he gets the eagle egg. How does he break it? Actually,
I think. Okay, give me a second.
No, he didn't get in a fight with May. That's way after. She doesn't come into the film until he like meets the
Noah encounters a rider. Wait.
Because he at the start. So
however, a human scavenger follows Noah home and inadvertently cracks his egg during a scuffle before fleeing. I assume that's May. If I'm not,
I
remember the movie correctly. Yeah. And then he tries to go back to get another egg because his father. It's one of those classic like father's not proud of you unless
he goes at night.
Collect egg. He goes at
and
night.
He's not supposed to.
Gets found by a raider tribe. That's the Proxima Caesar tribe. They come back. They discover where he's from. Burn down his village and like steal everyone. Yeah,
because his horse is there. They chase the horse back and kind of zap the horse with their big like zapper.
They have like tasers basically.
Like tongs,
that's
like homemade tasers.
Thing they have is tasers, which is funny.
And then he obviously gets back to the village. All going off. It's all burning down. Basically, it's literally just mass capturing at this stage.
Yeah, so what it is Proxima Caesar, in order to create his kingdom, he's collecting all of the clans and he's killing the leader of the clans, which is Noah's father. Yeah,
he's like a fake prophet kind of thing. And
exactly.
He establishes himself as we see later on in the film. Obviously, spoilers on like Caesar, like speaking through him and stuff like that. So it's kind of this whole thing. And then obviously we get in that scene as well. Basically Noah's there. He knows his dad is on top of the kind of main village structure. So he's like, oh shit, I'm gonna climb up there and then save dad. He's obviously with the obviously birds who are with the clan. And then the big gorilla. What do we have a name for him?
I don't think so, or probably, but I don't remember.
Scary big gorilla. He obviously climbs up. They start fighting on there. Basically it ends in Noah gets pretty much chucked off the Silver. That kind of makes sense. I could have guessed that.
Yeah, right. That's a guessable name.
He like falls out. He gets pushed off or like caught off the rope. I think it is. Noah falls and then he basically wakes up, like assuming the next day or whatever. Surprisingly, he hasn't died because that guy fell far.
Yeah,
wakes up and there's nothing there. No one's there. There's obviously a few dead bodies. He obviously finds his dad. And then his dad has obviously died. And then, they killed his dad. And then that's basically where it sets off. He's kind of on a mission to find his friends, who his friends are obviously called Anaya. His mum. So there's his mom. His mom, Suna, and Anaya. I can't remember his mom's name. And that's kind of where this whole thing starts and where we see it. And then eventually, I think not too long after that, he obviously, he's going walking, traveling, whatever. He falls through like a trap. And then he opens his eyes, and the big orangutan fella, what's his name? Raka is the electric thing, and he's like, he thinks that he's with Proximities, who are obviously capturing the apes, and then they explain it, and then it comes like the classic kind of road duo that you want to see. One's more loving and caring, and then one's more kind of skeptical of everything. And then that's kind of where it sets off, and then eventually they meet.
Yeah, and this is definitely where the movie takes its like lull that people are talking about. It's a journey kind of thing. It's a not by any means a Fellowship of the Ring type journey, but that's like the kind of idea, right? Is they're on this long journey. They discover this human tribe. It gets attacked by Proxima Caesar's clan.
That's where you see the trailer scene where the gorilla's jumping, or is it? Yeah, gorilla's jumping at the same time. Nova's in the middle. Who gets there first? To be honest, I really like the whole chase. For me, she was actually like tense. I actually felt it and I understood the stakes, which is not something I can say confidently for every big moment of the Apes franchise. But I actually really liked the scene, even though it was very obvious what was going to happen in trailers. I thought it was a really cinematic moment where it kind of showed off Wes Ball's skill, especially with kind of the motion capture stuff like that.
Is this a Mandela effect for me? I thought in the trailer they like had that in slow motion when like they actually like grabbed the arm and they did like a slow mo.
They probably do for the trailer.
Okay, because like in the movie it's just very much like it's a quick action scene. I was like, maybe I was just I've totally thought it was like
I don't remember, but
like
I
slow
wouldn't.
motion.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I wouldn't tell you you're wrong because I feel like trailers do that every once in a while.
I thought they just cut off in trailers. Like, for me, like in my head,
it was
fast,
something weird, but I
and
just
then
remember
they were
watching
about
it
to
in the
film.
theater. I was like, oh, this is like because they show it so many times in the trailer. That's like the thing they show in the trailer. I was like, oh, I thought
it's
they were
like
gonna
Mission Impossible with the jump, isn't it? It's like that's sort
Right.
of the thing they kept promoting it with.
Which I kind of like
maybe.
by West Ball because I feel like most directors be like, oh, this is like a cool shot. We're gonna like slow mo it, make it super intense, have like a fading like no in the background.
Imagine Zack
No, West
Snyder
Ball's
did
like
that
fuck
shit.
it.
Imagine Zack Snyder did that shit, man. That'd be crazy.
Or Luca
Just like-
Guadagnino.
Or Luca.
I
It'd be
think-
crazy doing Apes film, man. That'd be sick.
I think it's worth noting the dumb thing about this is at the start of the movie, it's like, and at the end of war, this plague has become, it's not killing humans anymore, or maybe it is as well, but it's making them not verbal and kind of like reducing them back to like apes almost. Like that's
it's literally
every human in this movie talks. Every human in this movie talks, and that was the biggest like. So other than the tribe, but every human that you know talks. It's May, it's William H. Macy, and it's the woman at the end when they're calling out. They all talk, all of them. And I'm like, so does this disease actually impact anyone in any way? And then also, it doesn't work for the end of the second Planet of the Apes movie, which we can maybe get into, where Nova in that movie speaks for the first time, because it doesn't work because what's his name in War, Woody Harrelson, can speak before, but this disease causes him not to be able to speak. So it's not that they don't know how to speak. They are unable to because of this disease. So that frustrated me a little bit. That again, that is a CinemaSins like argument and a stupid like nitpick thing. But I was like, this pisses me off a little bit.
I think it's just like a plot armor thing. Because the simian flu, like you said, it takes away humans' ability to like speak and like it lowers their cognitive functions. I think it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, some people it affects more than others. Some people are more immune. Whatever works well for our story, we're gonna flip and plop it in there. But yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, every person in this speaks. Noah and May are riding along with Raka, and then they get captured by the clan. Raka dies, which like if you don't see a body, I bet he comes back in a future movie. That's my like big prediction.
I mean, he could do, because all he was doing.
All he did is like float down the river, right?
Float down the river. A really fast river, admittedly, with probably a big drop at the end. But
yeah,
Noah survived that crazy drop at the beginning.
Yeah,
so
I thought dude was cast.
If they want, they can bring Raka back. Is all I'm saying.
Could bring Koba back. We never see Koba's body.
If they bring like Raka back, it would be cheap as anything, but I don't mind it because I actually really liked him. He was cool, so I don't really care.
So once they get into the kingdom, that's when we kind of meet Proxima, which is when the movie starts getting much, much better, in my opinion. Is when Proxima Caesar is around and he hits you with the "What a wonderful day."
I really liked that moment. It was like
good.
I like the whole, because again, I go back to what I said earlier, like this kind of fake prophet, and he's like speaking, through Caesar, and he's doing this whole thing. Oh yeah, because obviously it's referenced earlier on. Raka tells Noah about Caesar because Noah doesn't know, and then basically Noah's like, "This guy's not Caesar." He turns around and says it to like his friend at the end. I can't Anaya or the other one, whatever. And I thought this was like a really actual powerful moment. I really enjoy this, and it does. So I said this before. I like it when these films go a little bit sillier, and this for me was a little bit of a silly moment. I wish they would be stupider at times, but I think this was just kind of silly in the best possible way. And I really liked his kind of just egotistical nature, and I think it works really, really well. When he's first introduced, and they're doing that whole like chant with him as he's kind of coming out, and the guy's just like climbing up this massive stature, gets on top, he's like, "Wow, wonderful!" That 3 times, and gets everyone. I love this scene. I thought this really worked really well. I actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it very obviously has like themes of like all Planet of the Apes, which I texted you guys earlier this morning. I saw like a woke flicks TikTok account like talking how this is a 0 out of 5 wokeness, so it's not woke at all. And I'm like, well, Planet of the Apes just in general is woke. Like it's very much
mean,
yeah, exactly.
Does it just mean something that has substance related to the outside world?
It just means it has like a minority in the movie or something. Like that's all they mean. They're fucking ignorant. But I thought it was very funny because it obviously has themes of like false prophet and just like blindly believing in a religion without actually knowing any basis of it, and just like how far that can take you. And so Proxima is like teaching this ways of apes stronger together, but he's doing it in a sense to gain his own benefit. Apes strong together to open this vault of like human things. Like, I guess this is where a lot of the humans win, or the government went, right? Is kind of what
So
they're
he
saying.
so he can basically have what they had because he knows that they
Big
had
guns and-
like planes that fly. He actually didn't.
Yeah.
I don't think he knew guns yet because obviously
Oh, okay. Because at the end,
yeah. But he has like planes and stuff like that, and he knows. So he wants to establish what's in the vault, and he gets like a bunch of apes to just like pull it all the time at these like big ceremonies and whatever, and they just can't.
Mhm.
And every
Yeah.
time they're just failing each time, and it's like he just wants to access it so bad, and he'll go do anything to do it. But he knows Seagull's not working, which is why we get to the next scene where he kind of gets Noah to kind of come to his whatever, and then basically establishes that he's like the clever one and wants to kind of use him in that way. Because obviously he was with Nova prior, who they've been looking for as one of the humans to find exactly how to do it and stuff like that.
To find how to get in. And Nova knows how to get in from a different way. No one else does, but they're just trying to break down this big vault door, which, by the way, they eventually get down like 10 minutes after Noah and May get in. But they get in the vault eventually, and they find guns, and they find what May says is a book, but it's really, I forget what it is exactly.
It's like a picture book for kids. It's like a picture book for kids, and it shows
or you want about like how to get humans to talk again, right? They discover it's something like. Give me a sec.
Was there 2 books?
A deciphering key. I mean, there's a book.
Oh, yeah,
book. There are books in
yeah.
there, but she's looking for the key to turn back on the satellite.
Connect the satellites,
yeah.
So that humans can communicate again. And then Proxima gets in. May grabs a gun or has a gun, and he's like, "I want that shit," basically. And then they flood it right after. And then this is where
the bridge and that the water comes in. And
so they're sitting on the edge of a bridge. The edge of a ocean. They break the barrier wall and flood the entire place. And this is where the very like Avatar Way of Water comparisons come, right? And I mean, this looks incredible. Like this movie looks really, really amazing.
We did miss, I think, a big scene. I would say a big scene where May kills William H. Macy's character as well.
Oh yeah,
where like they're like getting it ready and like setting up the bridge to be exploded, and William H. Macy like comes over and is like, "What are you doing?" Whatever, and she's like, "Come with us," yada yada. And then he's like, I can't remember what he says now. He just says that he's gonna kill your friend. All about the apes, and he doesn't know what he's gonna do with you. And then she just
So William H. Macy also should be noted. Like he basically explains old history to Proxima Caesar, so that Proxima Caesar knows like old human history. Which it's funny, 300 years later, people remember it like it was yesterday, this old human history, which I guess like it may be in the sense that like humans probably didn't die out to this point until maybe like 100 years earlier or 50 years earlier, whatever it may be, because humans are basically extinct at this point and there are just like small amounts here and there, like in the original Planet of the Apes movies. But I thought that was funny because May and William H. Macy's character, who I can't remember his name, they just like know human history like the back of their hand. And then after this, they like obviously flood the place, they escape, and then it's a Proxima Caesar versus Noah battle. And I loved this scene because it's like Seth said, a little silly. It's not.
I'm the gorilla as well.
Huh?
I'm the gorilla as well
And the
because
gorilla.
it's the gorilla. The fight with Silver. That is such a dumb name. That's such an obvious name.
I forgot
And then
about
because
that.
he fights this with Soul, because obviously like I think it's so basically Noah just like says to all the apes they need to climb. Obviously they need to go up as the water's all flooding in, very Avatar Way of Water-esque, and they're all getting kind of trapped under whatever. And then the gorillas come and he's like trying to attack him, and Noah just does a high IQ play. They're like running through like a small little I guess like narrow entry, and then Noah's like, oh, and he just jumps through this little gap, and then the gorilla just gets trapped and just slowly drowns. That was actually a really fucking cool moment.
Yeah.
And then it goes on to obviously what Cam was saying, where Noah like gets out eventually, and then on the outside at the top where they climbed in at the start, who's there to meet him? It's the apes, and it's of course Proximus thing.
Yeah, and it's better than just like the ending is not a it's not a Noah versus Proxima Caesar just monkey fight, which I thought was fun. They have an eagle clan. There are tons of eagles circling around, and throughout at the start of the movie, you find that the Noah's dad, who's the leader of that clan, can like control the eagles just by like his
Like
shouting and
Gandalf.
stuff. Yeah, exactly. There you go. They've like learned how to like tame the eagles and like not control them, but like use them to help them out. And this is where Noah like remembers the chant and everything, which I can't remember.
I love
like
the chant.
oh.
I
like
actually,
something like that
this
there.
bit
It was
just got me
fun.
so excited, to be honest. And that's such a Apes classic moment, like a no moment. Do you know what I mean? But it just works, you know.
I agree. No,
It's
and I
really
like
works.
it a lot more than just like general ape fight. Like it's all these eagles just attacking this,
Just slowly
this
petting this
giant
guy.
ape. Yeah, and that's fun.
And they're all like chanting around him. He's holding one. It's cool. Man.
Yeah. And sorry to spoil it before spoiler section, but good guy wins. I mean, it's just movies. Like, good
But
guy
we didn't
wins.
know who'd die.
That's
And then
fair.
Cameron.
That's fair. I am sorry about that. But yeah, I really like this scene. And it just looks incredible. So I think that benefits it. Like the CGI is so good, it looks real. And I think that helps. Whereas if it didn't look real, it would have been like kind of silly and goofy. You're not like, but it and just maybe look stupid. But I really liked the end scene, and it's fun to see like Noah take this ascension to like the leader of this tribe because there's so few left, and he like understands it. That's fun. I like that part. And I hope in the next ones we get to see more clans and how they interact. And obviously, we've mentioned it a couple times. Humans have the ability to communicate now through satellite. They all can speak, but I'm sure that'll add to it, and it'll just be like another war or something. But
Yeah, because
5 more movies, that's a lot. I don't know exactly what they're gonna do with it, but that's a lot.
I think it will. I mean, it essentially it's confirmed that obviously they're wanting to make what was it? Yeah, 5 more after this one in the kind of modern era, and it is going to depend on how this film does. Because correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think this film's opened too well. I mean, I might
It's
be
the
wrong.
highest opening for an Apes movie.
Really?
Mhm.
I thought it did like 20 million. Is that the highest one?
Yeah,
It was the
this video
highest
for an
Friday.
Apes movie.
It was the highest Friday for an Apes movie. I know that.
I didn't think this did well for some reason. All right, fair enough. Maybe they will do that. But yeah, 5 more is a bit. To be honest, though, I'll say like the thing is, I'll still like them. I'll still go and see them. You know, they'll. But it's like the only issue I'm thinking in my head is there have been there's been 10 Apes films now, and they've done well, even though we haven't liked some of them. Done well in like mixing up the themes and kind of adding different additions and using different ways of kind of exploring this. You know, this whole coexist formula. But like, how much more can they do? Because obviously, at the end of this film, as Cam was saying, we get this scene where Nova eventually comes back to see Noah and the tribe, and basically she goes to find the human people, whatever, and it's kind of just setting up the humans are hopefully gonna take back. They want to take back the dominance, and they want to get back, the way it was hundreds of years ago, whatever. So it's like, how much further can they take this whilst remaining fresh? Because for me, this one still remained fresh, and I like what they're doing. It kind of continues to be great, and they're just trying new things. But it's going to be very difficult for them to do 5 more. I think that's a lot of fucking films. That's the.
I think it all comes down to the timeline because there's like
you have
like we said,
1,300 years
now between Kingdom and Planet of the Apes. You have like 1,200 to 1,300 years, and thinking logically, so in the original Planet of the Apes, we have astronaut crash land on this ape society in like 3356, whatever the year is, where at this point, apes have established a very well-oiled government, it seems. They all clearly know exactly what they're doing, the hierarchy, the structure. There's literally like judicial systems in place. Like it's a very established culture. And then also, obviously the movie, you realize that it's still Earth and the world's been like destroyed. Yeah. From like what you would assume would be like a nuclear holocaust or something that just ruined the universe. Humans are basically gone. So how do we get from where we are at now to there? Because at this point, at the end of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, there's hope for humans. Humans are getting connected again. Satellites. Humans are going to have round 2. They're going to come back and seem like they're going to start proliferating again. And obviously they have to get to the point where they're going to launch spaceships again, to where the point they'd get to the Planet of the Apes original one, even though there's time travel in there, but I still think it's still after where we're at in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes when that spaceship would have went. Yeah. So it's just interesting because obviously 1,200 years is so much room to play with. There's a lot of wiggle room there for how they want to piece this all together. But it seems like by the end of Kingdom of Planet of the Apes, we're going to probably see in the next couple of movies the humans start to gain back strength and probably lead up to another war between them and Apes. And I would like to see, the final Apes movie that's supposed to lead us up into the 1968 one be like, how do humans finally do it? Put the nail in the coffin and like ruin the society pretty much to the point where it's just fully apes. Because at this point they were basically down and out after war and now Kingdom, but now they're connected again. The satellite's good.
Yeah, I'd like to see that as well. Actually, like a good like in between.
Yeah, I kind of want to know what was it like on the other side of that phone call when that satellite comms, like where they just. I picture them like in Lost, like the TV show. If you watch that, where they're every day press the button and see if like there's I picture them just like going mentally insane way. They're like one day there's someone holding out, like one day someone's gonna talk to this mic, and everyone else like, bro, you're crazy. Let's just go.
Yeah,
I don't know. Let's go sit by the bonfire. No one's gonna talk. But now they're obviously connected. I'd imagine obviously the next film we have. I don't really know if we have a timeline for like when like release date wise it's gonna come, but we know it's coming. No. I'd imagine there's obviously gonna be a lot more humans in it than there was in this. I think this will probably stay firm as like the least human involvement of any Planet of the Apes movie ever. But I really liked it. Like the more just hearing you two talk about it, because you both liked it so much, is making me look back on it more fondly. I truly do think I just was aped out when I saw it to give it the 3-star. I'm still gonna leave it a 3-star until I watch it.
It's a lot of apes this week, and I think the issue is not all of them are good. So like as you get through the apes more,
they vary
like,
widely for sure.
Rough. This is rough to get through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even if you like all of them, you can at least agree that they vary widely from like the best to like the least of the bunch. Yeah. So, but I really love the false prophecy. Really interesting way to go, because obviously Caesar was built up in that trilogy of being
I like that too. Yeah,
being like the holy guy, like his follow him in Akoba, follow the more peaceful way. Even though Caesar had his moments, but it just set it up perfectly to now the Kingdom of the Planet Apes could be like, oh, let's have Caesar be this false prophet, or not false prophet, be like the guy, the shining beacon, and now we have people start to try and manipulate others in present day by saying that, oh, I know the word of Caesar better than you, like follow me, like he's touched me, I know his inner workings. Very Far Cry 5-esque a little bit, which I enjoyed. But I think we can kind of leave it there for
just
Hot Potta.
Real quick, just for opening weekend numbers, this is the highest grossing Friday of 22 million. Its opening weekend is looking to be like 55 million.
Oh, this was the Friday.
This is all domestic too. So this is, and then so the way it runs with the most recent trilogy is 54.5 million opening weekend for Rise, 72 for Dawn, which Dawn is the best. And then 56 million for War. So 55 million is kind of where it's projected at. We won't know till tomorrow, Monday, for exact numbers, but it's around the others of the trilogy. But I think it'll have, I don't know. I say it'll have longer legs, but it's got nothing next week. Like, no offense, George. No one's going to see I saw the TV Glow, which he knows, but
like the wide release next week is Ghostbusters. Like no one's seeing Ghostbusters.
Holy shit, Ghostbusters is next week.
Yeah, no one's seeing.
There's no way that movie's real.
No, exactly. So Planet of the Apes should have
Oh, I did not realize that was a movie. Shit,
and I think If also
breakdown next week.
Wait, Ghostbusters already come out.
I thought it did too, man.
Yeah, it came out.
Wait, actually,
like 2 months ago.
Ghostbusters: The Frozen Empire.
Yeah, it came out ages ago. I swear.
No shot.
Okay, this is
it's got. I have
123,000
logs on Letterboxd.
Oh shit! It's in theaters now.
March.
Wow, that's a movie no one's fucking seeing.
See, this is the point.
That's hilarious. No one saw that movie.
That's
but
crazy.
I think it's got one more week to do.
Oh, Back to Black next week. Back to Black.
That's been out here for a bit, and that's opened. Well, reception-wise, terribly. Anyway,
so it'll have good Strangers Chapter 1, also Tarot, some horror.
Furiosa is gonna kill it in 2 weeks, but it's got some good
legs. What's the budget come for?
160 million.
That's actually lower than I thought,
which is very impressive, to be honest. 160 million for this good looking of a movie is very impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this has a good starting place for this new trilogy they're obviously going to make. I want it to do well so that it does get a trilogy. So it's not just like, I mean, this one ends kind of on a cap other than the people cliffhanger that you get. But I want it to do well so that we don't get like a movie that just fizzles out kind of thing. But fellas, I'm sorry, I have to jump off. 75 out of 100, 4 out of 5. Tyler, I sent you my Apes ranking. But I will. Yeah, I will see y'all. I wish I could be here to talk. I just have too much family shit going on. So sorry about that, y'all. Have a wonderful weekend. Apes, real talk, strong together. Bye. See y'all.
Bye. Okay, so how do we want to do this Planet of the Apes run?
I say we just like
I'll leave it up to you.
I think we just kind of run through in release order, give like a very brief oversight on our thoughts and just like and not ratings. Don't say ratings yet, and then after we'll just say what we ranked them. George, you did miss an all-timer ReelTok moment, by the way.
What happened?
Cam spoiled the complete film in the first 5 minutes of the review.
Oh, did he really?
And then tried to play it off. He tried to play it off so hard. He's like, it's not that, and we're like, it's
literally the point of the film.
I will say, I took my headphones off, but I didn't like lower my volume. So when I came back and like walked past my headphones, all I heard was, and if we're still in spoilers, sorry, all I heard was like, why the fuck was William H. Macy in this movie?
No, that was fine.
Of the two. We had two spoilers we gave out early. That was the
he said the point of the film. It was very funny.
Damn.
So yeah, sorry to all the listeners. We appreciate it. Yeah, we'll run through like I guess chronologically, and then just give like brief thoughts. No ratings yet, and then obviously like we'll just go through the kind of rankings afterwards. Starting strong, I believe, for all of us. George, I'll come to you first with Planet of the Apes, the original one, 1968.
Yeah, starting very strong. And you'll see why I say very strong when we move on to 2 through 5 and then Tim Burton's movie. But this was great. I really think shout out our boy Doug. His review on this is kind of funny. It's like, this is how you know, like this is the second best science fiction film that came out in 1968, and it's like it's this good. Like it's crazy that like such a specific year something better came out. But this was great. This was for me at least, this was my first watch, so it was such an interesting shakeup from Rise, Dawn, and War. The first like half hour of this film, it's like, I don't want to say scary, but it's like kind of eerie. You know, like our guy Taylor and his boys, they're just walking through a desert. You get like apes and humans running in the background. The score is like, it's very eerie. It kind of feels like it's like something like Calm out of Hereditary. Mm-hmm. So like the first like half hour of this movie plays out like just like a very like, it's scary. It's very haunting. It's kind of like, it's like the uncertain, like you don't know what is like going to frighten you because anything that's supposed to frighten you is off screen. And then it plays out very interestingly. I think what's his name? Charlton Heston. I think he's fantastic in this movie. I also think everyone like Roddy McDowell and Kim Hunter, who play Cornelius and what's her name? Ziri. I think they're fantastic. I think the whole movie is it's thematically rich, which you could say about most of the OG Apes movies, but I think it's done best in this movie where it seems like they actually care about sending a message. So yeah, overall, I had a really good time in this movie. It was corny. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's not corny and silly. It is. But I think it plays to it. I think this movie has enough interesting, frightening moments. It has enough powerful commentary to keep it afloat, but it is corny at the end of the day. There are some iconic scenes in this movie. Get your damn dirty paws off me, you damn ape, or whatever he says. Like, I thought that was awesome. And when we talk about Tim Burton's movie, we'll talk about how he kind of ruined that quote. But yeah, I had a really good time with this. Definitely the outlier of the OGs. I think this is by far the best, like without even question. You're comparing the Godfather to the Fast and Furious movies when talking about Planet of the Apes versus like 2 through 5. I was about to say my score, but yeah, great time with this movie. Really fun first experience.
Cool. Tyler?
Yeah, I'm not gonna talk about my rating either, but I like the Apes movies a lot more than George for the most part, but I still agree. I think this one is just like, it's so fundamental, foundational revolutionary, inspired so much of science fiction, and it's just such a great movie in general. Like it's so brilliant. The score George mentioned is so good in this movie, and it makes the ending so much more impactful too. Like the final scene when the score is building up the whole movie, it's eerie, it's creepy, it's building tension, and then the final scene, all you hear just like waves crashing on a beach, and there's no score. It's just such a brilliant choice. And then like the use of setting. I don't really know like 1960s when they're making movies what it was like. So this was clearly filmed in like I mean I live in Arizona. I could clearly tell this was Arizona, like a Grand Canyon. I was like, this is so obviously Arizona. And then obviously when you get to the end of the movie, which I don't know, are we like spoiling these movies that we're talking through these? Are we like talking spoilers?
I think we're good to spoil these.
I guess if you're listening to our Planet of the Apes run through, you at least know this by now. But so obviously, at the end of the movie, you find out they're on Earth. You see the Statue of Liberty there, and that's what I mentioned when the waves crashing on the beach, and there's no score, and I just think it's so perfect for the moment. But the fact that it's filmed so clearly in Arizona and California and Utah, I think, but to me, the landscape is very noticeable because I've been there. I almost wonder if like that was like intentional to be like, well, yeah, like it's like kind of foreshadowing, like we're clearly still in America, man. We're not in some otherworldly planet type thing, which again could easily just be the 60s or like, we need something that looks like a different world. Let's go to the desert of Arizona. Or if they're clearly like, let's make it very intentionally the Grand Canyon. So we're kind of hinting the whole time, like, we're still in America, buddy. We're not in some crazy other planet that you crash onto. But love the ape suits. I think so much of this was so revolutionary in 1968. And I guess Burton in 2001, like the suits and costuming are still so great in that. But that's like 33 years after this. And so 33 years even prior to that, I think everything looks so cool in this. The fact that they were able to put this all together. I can imagine at the time, this was such a revolutionary film, much like 2001, that same year was. And then George mentioned it, the social and political commentary in this, I think is phenomenal. I think it's done so well. It never tries to be subtle. None of these original Apes movies ever try to be subtle. It's very in your face, very purposeful. Like it's just not a subtle movie, but I think that's like the point. And they're very clearly executing that in a very well way, I think. And yeah, I don't know. Nothing really negative I could say about the original 1968 Planet of the Apes. One of my favorite first watches of any movie I've seen recently. Visually stunning. Charlton Heston, we already mentioned it, just incredible. And then we'll kind of talk about in the second one. They literally got like a discount version of him. He's still in it a little bit, but yeah. And also, yeah, final thing is, it's interesting watching these old Apes movies with the costumes, and I guess even Burton's has costumes too, compared to like the CGI and the modern ones, because they almost like complement each other. Like when I'm watching the old ones, I'm not saying like, oh, this would be cooler with motion capture. And same thing with The War and Dawn and Kingdom. I'm not looking at those like, I wish these were monkey costumes. I think it's just like perfectly balanced. Like it just works. The costumes work so well in these original ones, and I think the motion capture works so well in these current ones. I think it just kind of makes you appreciate the other in a good way. They complement each other very well. But yeah, great film. Won't say my rating, but loved it.
Yeah, same. I've this is I was gonna say something. I've loved this film for years. That's my dad's favorite film, so I used to watch it he used to make me watch it all the time. I've seen it many times. I think it's fantastic. I think yeah, like Tyler said, I think the it's very in your face, but I think it's deliberate. I get why people don't like the originals. Shout out George. But they are silly. Like they are, absolutely. I just kind of like the silliness. I think in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of a silly concept to begin with.
Well, we'll get in. I don't dislike the sequels because they're silly. Like I think the first Planet of the Apes film is a very silly film, and I really enjoy that. There are other reasons why I do not like 2 through 5. Like
no, you in particular.
Silliness is not the problem.
People don't. I think that's some like for a lot of people. Like, well, comments on my review and stuff. It's like, why would you watch these when you could watch, the new ones, whatever. But I think they complement each other really, really well. I do kind of just prefer the guys' suits. I just like the stupidness. But again, like Tyler said, when I watched the mocap ones, I'm like, this is fucking insane. So I think they complement each other really well.
The suits are funny because, like,
yeah, they are.
They're talking, but their mouths are moving just like up and down.
Yeah, it's
like they're clearly not saying the right words.
Yeah, it's
which is just silly.
Yeah, I do like it. It's I think that the original, especially like this one, not to give it to whatever ratings, is quieter, not as kind of thunderous as Reese's 2 or Kingdom, for example. But I quite like the quieter, calm age, especially within that final third. I think the ending is just incredible, one of the most iconic endings ever. And yeah, very in your face with the commentary, but I think it's commentary that kind of becomes more prevalent as time passes, which is the same with any of the Apes films. Every single Apes film is very like they're not subtle as Tyler said, but I think they work, or some of them. But yeah, I really like this one. I love it, in fact. And that kind of moves us into the next one, which is a very strange film, regardless of what you kind of think of it rating wise. It's a very weird film. That is, of course, Beneath the Planet of the Apes. That's the next one, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Which essentially, and we'll all say the same thing here,
Insane.
for the first half of it,
it's the same movie.
It's literally the same film. It's
the same movie with a knockoff Charlton Heston
film with literally. When I watched it, I was like, "Is that Charles Heston?" Then I was like, "No, it's not." But it fucking looks like Charles. Then Charles Heston comes in the film. I'm like, "What the fuck?" It is, but for me, and I won't say my thoughts now, but for me, the only thing that saves this, that made me enjoy it more than I didn't, very marginally, is the massive swing ending, because I do really like the final act. But the first half, it's one of the most bizarre sequels of all time. George, thoughts?
Yeah, if there's like a consistent praise across even the original 5, it's the endings. Except for Battle, which we'll get into. But yeah, the endings are always they're just a massive swing for the fences, and they just always work. But this movie, like you said, it's so weird. I had to double check that I was actually watching the second film, because
it's really odd.
The whole first half hour, I mean, even down to who's the dude that plays the main character, James Franciscus, knockoff Charlton Heston. Like, it's insane. So for me, this movie just kind of comes off very like this feels like a parody of the first movie. Like, it feels like
they're all kind of parodies, though. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know. This one like truly just felt so spoofy. Like the dialogue, just the corniness was turned up to 11. It was so weird. I think the commentary is just, it's very shallow compared to the first one. The first one was like, it was very in your face, but it was like in your face in a very like good way, where like it was very impactful and very effective. This one just, it felt like it was just continuously shoved down your throat. It felt like this movie didn't know what to do with itself. So the writers were like, let's just shove commentary down their throat. And it's like, that's a way of forcing people to like talk positively on the movie, because obviously you don't want to talk negatively on a movie that's touching on like matters of like slavery and things like that. But I don't know, this movie just came off like, again, silly, but like in the first Planet of the Apes, silly is complimentary. In this Planet of the Apes, silly is very derogatory. I think it was just such a chore to sit through. And again, it's just so much just a copy and paste of the first. Seth, I'll use your favorite word, derivative. It is entirely derivative of the first movie.
I'd say derivative a lot.
Say derivative of a good chunk. But yeah, this one just, it completely missed the mark for me. Again, the only thing holding up my rating, and I say holding up even though my rating is very low, but the only thing holding up my rating is the ending. I think these movies have done a really good job at like keeping you invested throughout each ending enough to watch the next movie. Because they do a good job at like setting up this world and setting up like these brand new stories that you're going to watch within the Planet of the Apes franchise. But yeah, this one completely missed the mark for me. Just so much less intrigue compared to the first. The commentary felt very shallow, very forced. And everything just came off a lot spoofier and cornier, and it just didn't work for me in this case. Unfortunately.
I would argue it's actually like, it's not even derivative. It's like, it's even more than derivative. You know what I mean?
It's like literally like someone just Control-C, Control-V the movies and just...
It's a less impressive version of the first film for the first like hour.
Yeah,
it literally is like the same sort of...
Which I think bugged me the most. Like, it's just...
I quite enjoyed it because it's so stupid in a weird way.
Yeah, like maybe this movie isn't as bad as the low rating I gave it, but I think I was just so annoyed by how much they just pulled from the first. Like I said this in one of my reviews of these movies, I forgot which one it was, but like every franchise has its familiar beats. Like Pirates, Transformers, every franchise just has like familiarity throughout each film. it's just a bit too much in these original Apes films, where it just becomes very like repetitive and redundant, and it's just like annoying to sit through the exact same thing over and over again.
Tyler?
And Beneath is like the most criminally offensive of that. Sorry.
Yeah, obviously a lot of things I agree with in terms of the rehashing of the first one. It's frustrating. So I looked into it. I saw Charlton Heston like refused to do a sequel unless he was like killed off immediately. So clearly their hands are tied a bit. And it's interesting because then when you look forward at like Escape, which is the next one, it's so not really tied to this. Like you obviously, it's like complete inverse. So it's like almost interesting because you'd think, okay, Charlton Heston doesn't want to come back. So I felt like they're like, okay, we kind of have to like put some new characters in and just like retell this story and just get us boosted back up with the storyline of these new characters we can follow for the next 5 movies. But then when the ending of this movie hits, then you see where the movies go after this. It's like they didn't really need to do that. I feel like they had in this movie small nuggets of an idea of what they wanted to do. They just had to fill in another like hour and 20 minutes of it, because I thought there was a lot of interesting critiques once again of nuclear weapons, torture, police brutality, the lie of using violence is going to create more peace and trying to critique that. You have the teenage apes that are like protesting, but they didn't really dive into that much. They're just kind of there for one scene in the background and don't really get much more than that. So they had these nuggets of things that I felt like they were trying to tackle, but most of it just ended up being a rehash of the first one, which had me excited at the beginning because it really just picks up right where you leave off. And then it just completely diverts down a path of just redoing everything that the first one did. But George nailed on the head with like the endings of the movies always hit. They're always incredible endings. And that's why I found a lot of these hard to rate, especially the earlier ones, because a lot of them I just found myself either just liking, like I was like, oh, that's fine, or actively not really liking. But then like the ending hits, I'm like, oh shit, that was incredible. But for Beneath the Planet of the Apes, it's just a tough mixed bag of a movie because so much of it is just a rehash. It has its highlights. It has its commentary that I think is done effectively. Some stuff I don't think is dived into well enough. The ending I think is incredible, wild bananas, and it works so well for what this movie is trying to do. I just think if they didn't waste like 45 minutes to an hour, honestly, maybe even more than that, if they didn't waste that much time.
It should have done a short film. Just
right. It's just so odd because they clearly had an idea for the ending of this film, and they just had no clue how to get there. And I texted you guys this when I first started my watch. It was like they pooped these movies out, like 1968, 70, 71, 72, 73.
Yeah.
These movies were back to back like crazy. So interesting.
That text of yours was one of the funniest things I've ever read, where you were like, damn, they were really shitting these movies out like crazy.
Yeah, and I didn't mean that in a derogatory way, but I was like, holy shit, like take a year off, please.
Well, I would argue that,
deeper.
and I'll go into this in a second, that one of them, the last one of these kind of originals, they clearly ran out of some budget in the final part of it. Battle.
Dude, they ran out of ideas immediately with this franchise.
No, but I think Battle, especially, like even the ending, you're like, okay, what the fuck are we doing here now? We now move on to Escape, which I think I'm definitely the highest on. George loved this one. So Escape, I mean, it's one that I completely get why people don't like. It's a very interesting film, and I think the Letterboxd ratings. If I look like Friends and stuff, it's very mixed on mine personally. It's a complete inverse of the original in that apes on Earth, and well, not on Earth, but with humans and domination, kind of the apes come over, and it's very much like an inverse of the original film, especially at the start when they kind of drop by. I think that for me this kind of works in that the first 45-50 minutes are literally just a stupid, ridiculous satire, and I found funny, but I definitely get what people weren't. I kind of fell in love. I fell in love with Cornelius and Zara as characters and kind of their relationship and their stronghold that carries throughout. And he kind of has these kind of very much political elements that are very akin to the rest of the Planet of the Apes films as well, which you speak about in the themes of. Again, very heavy-handed, but for me it works and offers moral quandaries and political concerns and whatever. And then within the, and again, spoiler-ish, within the kind of final 30 minutes, it becomes this dangerous sort of thriller escapade in that they're trying to escape. And then it has, again, going back to it, the strongest point of this film for me is the ending, is that kind of real hard-hitting, devastating ending that they always try and accomplish and take in a swing, which I really appreciated. But I like the stupid nature. I like the kind of classic fish out of water story, the apes just doing stupid shit on Earth. It made me laugh. I really appreciated it. And then that kind of quick turn. I think for me, the most impressive thing is how they managed the tonal shift as well, from clear satire to a darker, escapade in that it is like devastating as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, I really like this one. I won't give him a rating just yet. George, I know you loved it, so praise it.
Yeah, again, for me, I think this is like another like Challenger situation-esque where like I know this is not like a terrible movie. Just everything is just not landing for me personally. Like Seth mentioned, like it's very satirical. I get that. I get that it's supposed to be in your face. I get that it's supposed to be like corny and silly. It really just doesn't land for me. I like the change of pace here, where now we're kind of reversing our roles, and it's the apes that land on Earth, and they're kind of in the society of humans that they don't understand. That intrigue was like 15 minutes long, and then it was again just beat for beat the original. This like fish out of water narrative that just didn't quite land for me because I had seen it 2 times over with the first and the second Apes movie, and unfortunately it's not sticking. I'm gonna keep saying spoof because it's truly how I feel about these movies. It feels like someone's trying to make fun of the original in like a very satirical way, and it's not necessarily working for me. I don't have like this attachment to these characters the way Seth does. He mentioned Cornelius and Zira, how this movie, he like had more of like an emotional attachment to these characters. I really didn't feel it. And I don't think that's necessarily a problem with the characters. I just think that's a problem with, my attachment to these films and my attachment to this writing. I think they're very shallow. They're very one-dimensional. I don't think anything is explored as deep as these films think they're exploring them. It's just another chore to sit through. I said in my Letterboxd review, this movie feels like some like really like crappily made like elementary movie you would show like a class of 6th graders to teach them like morals and values at like a very high level. Like it's this. Oh, I just thought of this right now. This movie is like the Bill Nye the Science Guy films, but for like political and social commentary, where like Bill Nye the Science Guy is like teaching you science at such a high level where like 3rd graders could understand it. This movie is trying to teach you like morals and values and trying to like give you like political and social commentary. For 3rd graders, it's like very high level. So I don't think these movies are like as thematically rich as they think they are, especially when you compare it to the 1968 movie, which I think is truly a very impactful and like long impression lasting type film. I rate this pretty lowly, but it's it's like right in the middle of my Apes ranking, which kind of tells you how I feel about this franchise as a whole. I don't love Escape. I love that we are changing the POV on us, but again, that intrigue lasted like 20 minutes before this movie got repetitive.
Yeah, I'm so much more on like Seth's side in terms of I really enjoyed this movie, but I don't even think a lot what George is saying is necessarily even wrong. Like this, I'd never have seen a single Apes movie and thought these are super deep works of art in terms of its writing, in terms of its nuances or narrative is trying to say. I don't think these are the type. I mean, I'm sure I could get more from rewatching them, but I don't think these are necessarily the type of film where I'm like, this is incredibly nuanced. It's going to take me a couple more watches to unpack. I think they're always right in your face and very like. So I get what you're saying.
They're
like,
trying to do that though. Like
that's what I'm saying. I think that's what they're. I don't think they're trying to be soft.
I think it's a hit you over the head like satire. I think that's like
right. Yeah.
Thing,
so that's what for me. That's why it was never an issue for me. So that's why I don't think necessarily what George is saying is wrong in terms of it being, shallow in terms of like how they're trying to write these. Yeah, I think it's a satire, but like Seth was saying, it's kind of like this kind of 2 movies in one, where the first half is almost like it's definitely a satire, but it's almost like a sitcom. Like something I feel like I'd be watching on like a weekly TV show where it's like, oh, these apes are in the world. Like it's silly, it's spoofy. It's they have a
it is like old
them.
TV.
Like
Yeah, it is like
well, why do they have a suitcase? That's silly. It's like, oh, they're changing into clothes. Like, I feel like it's something that could like easily be a TV show, which I know there is a Planet of the Apes TV show. Not familiar with that at all, but felt like a spoofy sitcom, little silly TV show you'd see 30-minute episodes of each week. And then it transitions to like the final act into like a cat and mouse game, thriller, hunted down. I think the final scene of her leaving her baby is one of the more gut-wrenching scenes we've seen. And it's all comes down to your personal connection. Like to me, I'm similar to Seth. Cornelius and Zira gained a lot of emotional connection towards them in this film. So I thought that ending with their baby was a very gut-wrenching, emotional moment. But this is a fun movie for me. I like it a lot. I won't say where it's rated, but I was really vibing with the whole satire sitcom, the whole Zira's pregnant, like, oh, I like some grape juice or like whatever. What did you call it? Like I don't know. She had some word for it, the grape juice, and the dude's like this, like wine, but obviously he was trying to. They were very happy.
Like a bunch of fucking like. Yeah, that's great.
She's like, usually I only get a little sip. He's like, no, you got to drink this whole fucking glass right now. But yeah, I had fun with this movie. Good movie. I had a good time with it.
I will say though, of the original like 5, I think this ending was like way more impactful for me. Not like I think the original. The ending is insane, obviously, but like I knew how that movie ended. Like that was a spoiler that I just couldn't avoid for the last couple of years, even though I've never seen the movie. So like I kind of knew it was coming. It was a bit out of context, so like it was cool seeing it in the moment. But like the ending of Escape, I had no idea where they were going with it. So the ending just felt like it hit me a lot harder. So of the originals, that's a big praise, I think, because again, these endings have been insane, except for Battle.
Shout ball. We'll move on to what is it? Conquest of Planet of the Apes, which again, think I'm the highest on. Not one I'm willing to go to war for because I think it's a very interesting film. Key note: there are 2 cuts of this film that are quite different, apparently. So, very, very interesting. Obviously, using kind of the apes as slaves and very much again obvious parallels to brutality and whatever. I find the very I think this is one of the most kind of diabolical, like disturbing ones in terms of kind of the violence as well. And I did appreciate that. And I think it took a swing which I liked a lot. Again, with the ending, I really, really liked. I don't think everything works in this film. To be honest, I might lower my rating. I won't say what it is, but I do. There is a bigger discrepancy between my enjoyment for this one and Escape than my rating would signify anyway. But I like the swing in that, they're using the apes as slaves, and you've kind of got these kind of huge violent moments. And it's one of the most kind of disturbing ones in the franchise, especially, I think, depending on what cut you actually watched. There's one cut which is a lot more like bloody and brazen than the other. I think I saw in someone's review they kind of compared it to like George Romero's Dawn of the Dead in that kind of the use of blood and stuff like that, and it's very out there, which I like, and I like this one, but it's again not really one that I'm gonna push on too much because I think it's different, and I think that the thing they're taking this won't work for some. So yeah, George.
I'm kind of more like split 50-50 on this one. Like I don't hate it as much as I like dislike Conquest and Beneath, but I certainly don't love it as much as the OG. I think it's cool, Tyler. I think you mentioned this in your Letterboxd review. It's cool seeing like OG Caesar and like how Caesar is in Matt Reeves' 2 movies. And I think even Alex said it in one of his Letterboxd reviews that I saw, where like Caesar in this movie is way more like Koba in Dawn,
yeah, he is. Yeah,
which I like. Yeah, and I read that review before I had seen the movie, so I kind of had that in the back of my head. And the entire time I was like, yeah, he kind of hit the nail on the head. Like their ideologies are like very much Koba-esque in this movie, as opposed to like Andy Serkis's Caesar, which I did kind of like. And I liked seeing, like, we had a little time jump at the beginning of this movie, so it's cool to see like how this world has progressed with their relationship to the apes. Again, we're speaking on commentary of slavery, and I'm not trying to diminish what this movie is trying to say. I just think it's done in like a very one-dimensional, and again, I'll say shallow again. It's just done in a very shallow way. I think the hand-holding is insane. It's like it's really being shoved down your throat, which again, I know is the intention of this movie. It's just something that doesn't necessarily work for me. I would rather, I don't even know who filmed this movie. I would rather J. Lee Thompson, like, just give us context clues. Like, let me work out like these like thematic elements of slavery. Don't just like stick them down my throat. I think it just makes the movie like very like not worthwhile. Because like it feels like you're not really like working towards anything, and a lot just doesn't feel rewarding. Ending goes crazy. I will say that ending goes absolutely crazy. That one shot of Caesar giving his little speech with a fire behind him, or like a little bit of fire, kind of goes hard. And again, just back to this franchise nailing all of their endings. But yeah, I don't know. These sequels just I really just don't find myself connecting with them as much as a lot of people seem to. Like, this movie has a 3.2 average rating, and most of like this curve is leaning positive in like the 3.5, 4 section. So I'm clearly in the minority, which is understandable, but they just don't land for me necessarily. But again, each of these movies, they've had their sequences that have like really attracted me. And I do really like Caesar in this movie. I think he's a really cool character. I think he could have been a little more fleshed out. I think he could have been, again, it's weird comparing him to like Andy Serkis' Caesar, because I truly think we'll get to it, but I think that Caesar is like one of the best characters ever. So like inherently all I'm doing is comparing the two, which is a little unfair to Caesar in Conquest. But yeah, I think this movie is like just super fine. It's not as like offensively bad as like Beneath or Jesus, what did we just talk about? Beneath or Escape. But it's certainly not as good as the OG.
Interesting for me. I mean, yeah, I guess I won't talk about where I stack rank these, but again, this is why the ones I don't like as much in the original Apes movies are so hard for me to rate, because I think the endings, like we've all been talking about, are always nailed. And I think there's some really incredible imagery in the final scenes of this movie. But everything that kind of just got us there failed to really grab me. I think, like we kind of talked about, it's not really ever trying to be super subtle, but I think it might have been getting a little exhausting to me at this point in my watch through, since we were watching these all back to back to back, where I think by this point I was like, okay, I get it. The themes are going for here. It's kind of interesting that each one focuses a little stronger on one element, whether it be, nuclear warfare or protesting and police brutality or slavery. They all kind of pick apart little different things here. But I think maybe by the time I got to Conquest, I was starting to get exhausted with these early Ape movies and being the political satires that they are, being very over the top. But yeah, like George mentioned, really cool to kind of see the different Caesars and how they orchestrate, which like this is like OG Caesar, but like after current Caesar. So like this is like post Reeves Caesar. It's time. I'm telling you, man, timeline's confusing. Timeline's
out of control.
But yeah, the final scenes I think are really great, and I think that's what really elevates it for me. And and I watched this on Hulu, so I'd imagine probably the theatrical cut on there. I think Alex Coleman said he watched the alternate cut, which is the darker one. I don't know. I'm guessing, George, you probably watched on Hulu too, or I don't know, but I think we probably all watched the theatrical. I don't know. Seth, did you watch the non-theatrical?
I did not watch it on Hulu because Hulu doesn't exist here. I also won't say where I watched it because I wanted to find a particular cut. That's all I'll say.
Was it dark on the? Was the alternate?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a lot. From my experience, it was a lot. I mean, maybe we did watch the same one, but I think it was a lot more violent, a lot more bloody, a lot more disturbing. Maybe that's the case, but I think that's the main difference between the two, because when they released it, they kind of introduced two cuts because they wouldn't televise a certain one or stuff like that. And I believe, I'm not mistaken, the main one, which will be on streaming services, would be the theatrical. I don't think there's a difference in the story per se. I think it's mainly just the kind of brutality on show and some of the sequences, maybe.
Question for you guys, and this question might not even make sense, and it might be stupid. Like, we look back on these films and we're using words like satirical and silly and corny. Do you think that was like the actual intention of these films, to be satirical and corny? Or do you just think like 70, 80 years after their release, that's just how we view them?
No, I actually do, because I think especially there is humor. There is, like, if you compare them to like the modern Apes movies, there's a lot more humor kind of sprinkled through in these kind of ridiculous, overly ridiculous moments. I think, I would probably agree with like the costumes and stuff. We look back and now they're kind of silly, but in a good way. Maybe it wasn't meant like that because that's what they had to work with, then, and they didn't have the mocap and stuff. But I do think they were very much intended as kind of these satires, especially Escape for me within that first half. That is just as silly as you can get. So yeah, I think compared to the modern ones, because the modern ones have kind of gone for the more serious route, still very, you know, which we'll go into, you know, the modern trilogy, still the Apes films have always been very fucking heavy-handed, but the modern ones have kind of opted for the more serious, as well, realism isn't really the correct word when it's about fucking talking apes, but you know what I'm saying. So we'll move on to the next one, which is, let me have a look.
Battle.
Oh, Battle. Great shit. Okay, so Battle, for me, Battle is like, I didn't hate Battle, admittedly, but there are some cool sequences. There are some sequences that struck me, not the ending, surprisingly, but there are some really out of place ones in this. I think, again, very heavy head. It's good within moments. I think the end, the final, the kind of climactic battle in this is
so disappointing.
It really is. It's massive.
So disappointing.
It's the huge conclusion, the huge battle, and I think at this point, not only did they run out of kind of maybe a baseline of ideas in terms of how they wanted to structure it and lead up to it, but also budget, I think, was a massive. I think the end battle is like genuinely awful. I also would say within a lot of these films, I think a lot of them, for me, the issue is also the runtime as well. You notice all the old films, apart from the first one, are like 80, 90 minutes, which is pretty fucking short for what you're trying to tackle and how much they go into, especially with Conquest, I would say, and this one. But yeah, this one wasn't great. There is some few striking emotional moments, as always, and some stuff does work for me. But particularly the final sequence, this is the one in the franchise that stands out to me as being the only one where I was like, yeah, that ending did not work at all, because I think they utilized all the resources they possibly could have. So didn't hate it, but yeah, I didn't particularly like it either.
I for sure hated this movie. I don't know. There's no way to like sugarcoat it. Like while you were talking, I was trying to think of like what's something positive I could say about this movie, but I really it was so disappointing because, like we've been saying this whole episode, the one thing these movies have nailed, even if it's like, even for me who hasn't loved these movies, the one thing that this franchise, the original 5, like admittedly has just perfected is their endings. They really they're either devastating, emotional, epic. They really like, even though I don't love the movies, they always kept me wanting to like continue the story. This being like the final movie, it could have been glorious. It could have been like this truly like epic finale to this franchise. And they completely fumbled the bag. Everyone in this production it even felt like they were aped out at that point. I know we were saying we were aped out watching these movies. They had to have been aped out making these movies, especially for 5 years straight, with like no year break. But yeah, this movie it was more so tonally all over the place, where it didn't know what type of ending it wanted to be, whether it wanted to be this like massive epic or it wanted to be like more of a small scale emotional film. And it was kind of like this movie felt like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes ending and War for the Planet of the Apes ending came together and meshed together. But it was like a really shitty child of the two, where like Dawn was like super epic. War was more like an emotional ending. And they both nailed those endings. This movie kind of like took both of those endings and just made them shittier, really shittier, might I add. But yeah, I very much dislike this movie. Of all of the films, this is the one that just like, I had never been more excited to like turn off a movie in my entire life. I know a lot of people shit on Burton's movie, but it is not nearly as bad as this crap.
No.
It is not nearly as bad as this crap. This movie was so bad. I really just did not have a good time with it. It was a chore to sit through. Yeah, that you guys have fun. Talk.
Man. So like you kind of mentioned with parallels to Dawn and War, the whole I like the silliness of the ape costumes. I think it's a lot of fun. But in Battle Over the Planet of the Apes is when I really felt like watching this. I'm like, this is where the performance capture of the new movies really shines, because if you want to have an epic all-out man versus ape battle and war like this, it just did not work. And I don't think it just being the ape costumes is the only issue whatsoever. this battle almost felt like it was taking place in like a slow motion. Like trucks were moving at like 3 miles per hour. It felt like they were trying to make it seem like some sprawling war epic when it really just kind of looked like a couple dudes in a field shooting back. Like this is just a weird final battle to build up to. And not only does the movie build up towards it the whole time, but the whole 5 movies, they don't necessarily all build up to it together in one cohesive 5-movie woven narrative, but they're all kind of leading you to the point where as you're watching these, you're like, okay, when's the actual full battle going to come here? And it just kind of just builds up to a big nothing. Like, and we'll talk about Tim Burton's, but I'm not going to fight tooth and nail to say one's worse than another. I thought I did not have a good time in this movie. I think budget, like Seth was saying, sounds like it clearly hit them, because that final battle was something to see for sure. And it's not even a sign of the times, because we've all seen plenty of movies in the 70s, way before the 70s, with battle sequences way more intense than this. So it's not even just like it's the 70s, what can you do? Like, no, this movie clearly either had no budget.
Can do a lot. Go watch Lawrence of Arabia, motherfucker.
Exactly. So 73, I don't know. This final battle was wild in a derogatory way.
Okay. And then we progress. What is it like? Is it 73? So 28 years, I think it was between the two. Because we had the TV show in the middle, which obviously no one of us fucking watched. I don't even know what that is. So we get to 2001, which is Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. I hate this. I know I don't like the last one, but I really hate this one. I will say, there's some fucking cool costumes in this one. Like some really cool shit. And again, Tim Burton, the fucking hack fraud. One thing he's good at, although this is Tim Burton 2001, he's actually pretty good at this stage. This is actually really
my boy.
Chill. The practical work is great, but again, it kind of turns a lot of Burton's work. It kind of settles on this really lifeless tone where there are very similar obviously themes, but very similar moments to the original, not nearly as impactful. I think the ending is ridiculous. I think it's very forgettable. I think Mark Wahlberg gives an all-time terrible performance here. I think he's unbelievably terrible in every single way. Sorry, Mark. Actually, no, not sorry. Fuck that guy. But anyway,
I don't think he's ever been good. To be fair, never once.
I think he's good in Boogie Nights. I think he's good in Boogie Nights. I think he works in Boogie Nights. I really do. But yeah, terrible in this. I think it's structured in a really weird way. I don't think Tim Burton. I think Tim Burton's a higher hand, like Planet of the Apes director, who's just bizarre. I don't think he works within this style at all. I think he does nothing but falter it massively. But yeah, I mean the costumes, practical design, some of the sequences are pretty cool. The ending is ridiculous and it's very boring and lifeless for the most part. And I hate Mark Wahlberg as the guy to lead this. So yeah, George.
George loves this movie, so I want
to No, I do not love this movie, and I rate it rather very low. Actually, my thing is, it was refreshing, which is why I think I was more attracted to it. It was the 5 OGs back to back, basically watching the same film over and over again with the same commentary, essentially the same narrative. This just felt refreshing. This was more of like an adventure film, which I think I appreciated. Like it tried to do way too much. Like even within like the first 15 minutes, like when they're like in space and they're like explaining why Mark crashed on this planet, I was like, okay, they're trying to do too much. But I respect that this isn't trying to be like a cut for cut copy and paste of the original. And that's, I think, why I like hold it slightly higher than a few of the original 5. Just because I respect it. I respect its swing for the fences effort. It's doing too much. Again, I don't think Mark Wahlberg is terrible. Certainly not as bad as he is in like The Happening or something like that.
No.
His speech, I will say, at the end is so corny. Most of his speeches are so corny. But yeah, I don't love this movie. Do not get my words twisted. Okay. I just think after having seen the original 5, this was just like a refreshing turn that I needed. Again, it was like,
swear to God, George, if you have this higher than Escape when we do our rankings, I'm leaving. I swear. Don't tell me. I'm not going
to tell you. But yeah, it's not a good movie. It's not. I think this one is where like it's trying to do too much. Its social commentary, its political commentary is not as effective as 68's is, the original movie. I think it's fun. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that like the set pieces weren't cool. Paul Giamatti, I don't know if this is a hot take, horrific, so bad.
Yeah, I just like seeing him.
Dude,
He
it
wanted
was
to play
so
monkey for such a
off-putting.
long time. So
Oh my god, it was so off-putting. I just couldn't take my eyes off of him. And then I just think the whole final battle, it felt very small scale compared to like how large of a world they built. It almost felt like they built this massive world, they built this lore, and then the final battle was condensed to like 100 or 200 bodies in a very small like desert field. Which like imagine if Dune, like 2 movies in massive world building and lore, and imagine if that final battle were like 15 people just fighting. That's what this kind of felt like, which was a little like disappointing because obviously like this movie kind of set up like a more epic finale than maybe the other films did, and we didn't necessarily get that. But yeah, this is not the worst in the franchise. This is certainly not the worst in the franchise, respectfully. It's not good. Let me say that. It's not good.
I don't understand why they got Tim Burton to direct this. I think it's such a weird choice.
It did feel weird. That's the one thing I was thinking. Like, it didn't even have like his like signature dark and foggy aesthetic that you expect from a Burton movie. This really, like, if you showed me this movie and I didn't know who directed it, I would never guess Tim Burton.
Well, what's weird is from the poster on Letterboxd and like, like the header that goes above the movie, like it looks like Tim Burton's aesthetic with like the dark and gloominess and the smokiness. It doesn't really look like that in the movie though. Like you never really get the Tim Burton feel in the movie whatsoever. But this movie is weird because it was weird watching them all back to back. So I'm like, this is following the 1968 movie and then it diverts, but then like it comes back a bit and then I'm like, it's just a weird amount of influence that it drew from it. Cause then you have like kind of the big reveals, like Abraham Lincoln is an ape. And that's clearly like their version of the Statue of Liberty from the first one. And just so odd. And Mark Wahlberg, obviously,
that's just so dumb.
No, that ending was cool. Stop it.
The Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
So
I like
ridiculous.
I thought it was cool. I'm so upset that they like set that up and then we never got a sequel. Cause that's something I would love to explore. Like that was cool. That was a cool ending.
I feel like they wanted to have a sequel. I guess it must have just flopped or something. I don't know.
I don't actually know if it did, I'll keep going, Tyler. I'll check it.
Yeah, check that out. But yeah, I think I can appreciate and understand the costuming that went into this and how revolutionary it was and how much it pushed the bounds of what's capable of modern day filmmaking. But I think I would just vastly prefer the silly ones of the earlier ones simply because Paul Giamatti and Michael Clark Duncan were so eerily close to like what I know they look like. Like I'd see them like that's Paul Giamatti. Michael Clark Duncan, especially. I was like, dude, they just look too similar. Like I was like, this is too realistic of mass to the point where it just took me out of the movie. So I'm like, either give me motion capture or give me silly costumes. Don't give me this like basically really just painting over their face, incredibly realistic costumes because it just felt very weird and off-putting. And Paul Giamatti, I love him to death, but yeah, like George said, I don't think he's good. He's just ridiculous.
I only like him because I saw that interview where he just said that like he just really wanted to play a monkey and he got to play a monkey.
Love the
guy.
I was like,
Paul Giamatti is just like a likable guy, but yeah, it wasn't great. It made so the budget was 100 million, it made 362 million. So actually
would have expected a little more money, honestly, but it did definitely profit and made money, but maybe not enough for them to want to push forward with sequels. I don't know.
So like to compare it, so just comparison with War, because the first one come up. War made 490 million, and I think with a little bit higher budget. So it's kind of around the same, a little bit less.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense. So now we kind of take obviously a massive leap to Rise of Planet Apes, which I believe 2011. Is that right? Saying Rupert Wyatt's.
Yes,
so I not crazy low on this film by any means, but I'm not a huge fan of it. I think this film for me falters massively in the first half in that I just think it just feels very, very Hollywood formulaic, very kind of trying too hard to be earnest to the point where it's just kind of dull. I don't think James Franco is that good at all in this. Pretty low risk. There's some iconic moments. I think the final 40 minutes or so are pretty great. Actually, I really like the ending of this. And obviously there's that which everyone speaks about. That is the only thing people speak about in this film. all the time. It's so annoying, but it is good. The final half is good for me. I think it doesn't improve greatly, and I think it actually takes a risk, takes a bit of a swing, and sets up what we come to see with Dawn quite nicely within Caesar's character. I think for me, there's just a massive difference in quality, and I tweeted this. A lot of people disagree with me, which is fair. But I think there's such a huge difference in quality with Rupert Wyatt's compared to the modern ones, compared to Matt Reeves. It's like such a fucking massive difference. So yeah, I'm not low on this by any means, but I do think it's a big step down compared to the other two in the trilogy. But it does save itself within the sort of final 40 minutes, I would say.
Yeah, I wanted to rewatch this one. I know I rewatched Dawn not a couple of weeks ago, so I didn't feel the need to rewatch that one, and I just wanted to jump right to War. So I'm a little upset I didn't revisit this one. But it's probably been like a year or two since I've seen it. I don't dislike it as much as a lot of people. I definitely think it's a good movie. I like that this movie kind of plays into like the medical field a little bit more. Like it's the effect of Alzheimer's that's really like at the forefront here, which I really respect because it is such like a weird, like it's just a weird change up from like the original 68 and then Tim Burton's, which are like kind of the start of the new franchise. And they're both like kind of running the same narrative of like this human that crash lands on a planet inhabited by apes who are the dominant species. Whereas this one, we kind of like, we go all the way back and we're seeing like how this Planet of the Apes truly started. Like we're not just being thrown into it 2,000 years in the future where they're already like the more advanced species. So I really like that aspect of it where you're kind of like watching, like it's an origin story at the end of the day. This movie is an origin story. And I mean, you guys know me, I'm a sucker for origin stories. I really do think, I know a lot of people shit on James Franco. I think he gives a fine performance. I don't think he's great.
I don't think he's terrible.
Yeah, like don't get my words twisted. Yeah, like I think it's just, I think what makes me like a little more attracted to James Franco in this movie as opposed to others is his relationship with Caesar. Because they are really like that's the movie. That at its core is the movie. It's essentially a father-son movie between Caesar and Will, I believe his name is in the movie. And I just really like that. I think it makes for some very sincere moments. I think it makes for some very emotional moments, some heartbreaking moments, some really inspiring moments. Again, it's not the strongest Apes movie out there, but I know a lot of people on Twitter have been like pooping on it lately.
Doug, shout
out Doug, my boy.
Craziest ratios ever in the history of ever, by the way.
Insane. Yeah. He got ratioed like crazy. Insane. But yeah, again, I'm upset I didn't rewatch it before recording this episode because I know I would have had a lot more to say. But from what I remember, I like this movie. Again, it's an origin story. I'm a sucker for origin stories. It's playing a little more towards Alzheimer's and how that kind of reshaped, society, and that was kind of like what kicked off the uprising of the apes. So it was cool to see. I was about to spoil my rating. I will not, but I like this movie.
Am I crazy in saying John Lithgow isn't very good in this?
No,
he's not.
He's very forgettable.
Okay, yeah. I didn't know if people like love, because I had a comment when I said that people said that he was really good, and I was like, I really don't think he was very good at all. And I like him.
I didn't like the way they wrote him either. Like giving him Alzheimer's, making him forget everything, then like fixing him and curing him, and then just be like, nah, actually, scratch that, rewind it, reverse it. Like it just felt like a very cheap way to like make us feel bad. It's just like go like give him Alzheimer's and make him like see the glimmer of hope of like, oh, he's getting better, and then just like take that away from us. But I don't know. This movie, I watched it a few months ago with Riley. So we'll talk about this a little bit more, Dawn, but I don't think I think Dawn is the only one that I feel like does well with making me emotionally connected and humanize the humans as well as the apes. I feel like every other one either does it well for the apes and then makes the humans look ungodly stupid, or doesn't give enough time on the ape side of things and tries to make us more emotionally connected to humans. I feel like Dawn's the only one that does it well for both. Whereas Rise, like the humans are so over the top stupid in this. Like you get like the Draco Malfoys in this movie, and you just see him and his buddies like basically their favorite pastime is just drinking beer and tasing apes and just like making them like obviously like the most over the top evil people you could ever think of. Then the final
Tom Felton in this. Malfoy is not the one in this, by the way. but he is just not the
Yeah,
one.
he sucks.
He's so
but then like the Golden Gate Bridge scene at the end that kind of like begins the confrontation between human and ape. Like so easy to shut that down. Like the apes are on one end, the humans are on the other. They have full on military vehicles, helicopters. There's no reason apes should be jumping on these military vehicles, knocking them down, getting on horses, killing. Like simply, you have the military there. It would be pretty easy to blow up this bridge and end this problem. And the movie ends there, and we get no dawn and war. Like it's just it's one of those.
I do quite like that scene though, to be honest.
No, it's a fun scene, but it's just the problem with so many action movies where you're just like screaming at the screen. Like this is such an easy problem to solve, and you're just purposely not doing it to make it more cinematic. So it's just frustrating to watch. But most of this movie, like I actually do like James Franco in this. I think him and the connection between him and trying to go behind Caesar, but trying to go behind the back of the medical teams that are being like, I don't know, it's just like kind of cool, like George was saying, like infiltrating the medical system and saving Caesar. And obviously you get like the cool window in his like little upper attic that becomes like the symbol for Caesar going forward, that like window pattern, which is neat. But I like James Franco and his relationship. I think a lot of it's also dumb too, with like him bringing him to the forest and letting him run around. I'm like, dude, that's just asking for something to go so seriously wrong. But just like letting him run free in the redwood forest where like hikers go all the time every day. And then he's like shocked when he's like, oh shit, there's a hiker here and they found Caesar. And he's like, don't tell anyone. He's my ape and he's trained and he's normal. I do like the scene when he like joyrides and like crashes the neighbor's car because that neighbor was just so annoying. But again, it's just, this movie has a lot of caricatures. There's not a lot of humans in this movie. There's a lot of satirical, like over embellishments of like, oh, let's make the most anti-animal, like evil person ever. Let's make the stupidest military people ever. Let's make the most annoying neighbor ever. So it's just a silly movie, but it's fun. I'm not going to say my rating, but it's definitely not a movie I hate by any stretch of the imagination. Can't get on board with the Twitter discourse saying it's like an awful movie, but it's not even like a revisionist thing. Like even before any of the Twitter discourse this past week, it was always just kind of like a meh movie for me. But yeah, Rupert Wyatt doesn't have the sauce compared to who we're going to talk about now, Matt Reeves.
Yeah, so we go 3 years down the line. We get to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. So this one for me, very similar to what Tyler said. I was going to bring this up as well. I think this one manages best in terms of the emotion between the two, the humans and the apes, and kind of puts them together in a really nice shape form. And this is the most emotionally complex of the kind of modern age Planet of the Apes films. I think that the relationships with Caesar, kind of the exploration of power and loyalty, I think it just ties everything together really well. And it's one that actually made me like, I mean, to be fair, War, which I'll go over, I won't spoil that one, but I'm probably maybe higher on War than most people. I don't actually know how most people perceive War, but I think this one, it shows the effects of kind of survival in this post world. I think this, for me, this is the most comfortably, in terms of balancing of themes, this is the best one within that the modern age. And I think this is the one where it really ties everything together well. I think it does well into War as well, but there are a few comebacks with that one. But yeah, I think it's intense. I think it's well executed. I think it's flawed at times in that at some point parts do feel very Hollywood. But again, I don't think that's a major disagreement. I haven't watched this one in when did we review it? Like 3 months ago, I think. It wasn't too long ago.
It wasn't that long ago.
So if you want to hear our full thoughts when we actually watched it fresh, don't watch that one. But yeah, I really like this one. I think it's great. I think it ties everything together really well. I think it manages the emotion mostly really well across the board as well, with obviously the humans and the apes. But yeah, really like this one. George?
Yeah, I don't even know if this is like a spoiler. I'm not even fucking not say it. Yeah, I love this movie. I think this movie is fantastic. Shout out real quick, episode 131. I just looked that up. We did a nice half-hour discussion. That's got to be one of our like longer, real quick discussions. So I'll keep my thoughts short because I pretty much am right there in line with everything Tyler and Seth said. I think this is fantastic. I think just like Tyler said, I like that this movie is not necessarily picking a side. They're not like, okay, apes good, humans bad, or humans good, apes bad. They're kind of giving you empathy on both sides. And you're just kind of you're the one that's basically left to like decide whose side is right. Which I really like because it leaves a lot of ambiguity. It leaves a lot for you to kind of speak about and discuss after watching this film. I'll dive into it a little more when we talk about War. But I truly think Caesar is like one of the best characters ever written. And when we talk about war, we'll kind of, discuss like the way his arc kind of wraps up. This movie is epic. Jason Clarke giving maybe his best performance ever. I think he's fantastic as kind of like this James Franco substitute that kind of becomes a little bit towards the end as like Caesar's like, bud pal. It's epic in scale. I really enjoy just in general, not even in like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I really just like enjoy like a dystopian world, but like dystopian is the wrong word. I don't know how to describe it. Maybe like post-apocalyptic world, I would even say. Yeah. I like when we like explore those kind of worlds, and I think this movie just does it fantastically. I think Matt Reeves' eye for anything post-apocalyptic, like you have Cloverfield as well. I think he just really nails like that, like I don't want to say like disaster elements, but you guys know what I mean. Like the world is in shambles, and I think Matt Reeves really does a good job at like like really making you feel like this world has gone to shit, but it's also been lived in for the last 3 years. But yeah, I really love this movie. Real quick, episode 131. Shout out.
This has the wait. Is this War? Or is this Dawn? Yes, this is Dawn with
Dawn.
The what's it? Caesar week, Cobra week, like the one on all the edits and shit. That is fucking hard. Like when I watched that scene, I'm like, okay, that goes kind of crazy. There are some like a lot of moments like that. It's like this is Planet of the Apes trilogy is like the peak TikTok edit era of like Caesar and Cobra. But to be honest, whenever they come up, I am watching them because they are fucking cool.
Dude, the scene, I think the best scene in the trilogy, in the franchise, is when Cobra pulls up on like the militia doing target practice, and he's like buddy with them. He's like, "Oh, give me a swig of liquor." They steals their gun, just shoots them up, and looks at the menace. I think that scene just has a smile on my face the whole time, even though it's like a menacing scene, but it's so funny. Like him just like buddy. It's just such a great scene. And I think more franchises need to take Dawn of the Planet of the Apes as kind of an example, because James Franco obviously isn't in this, but he's like, there's a couple of callbacks to him, and everything I've researched, and I looked up many articles, it was all saying no differences with schedules, no issues with James Franco. It was just purely Matt Reeves, the direction you want to take the franchise in. There was no logical way to weave in James Franco's character, so we just didn't have them in the movie. I think more franchises need to be not afraid of, just because you have like a lead star in a movie, if like it's going to be forced to have them in there just for the sake of, oh, this big movie star was in this one movie, we got to have him in the sequel. Like I think like Transformers, like all these type of franchises could benefit from doing something like that, where there was nothing wrong with, like, I mean, I know James Franco has a lot of allegations for things wrong, but I mean, in terms of like the reason why he wasn't in this movie, there's nothing with like Matt Reeves not wanting him in there because of the personal differences or nothing scheduling wise. Basically Matt Reeves just really, from what the direction I want to take this, wouldn't work with James Franco in it. So therefore not putting James Franco in the movie, which obviously no matter what you think of James Franco, he's an actor everyone's going to recognize his name and face. So it's not like an easy character to just like cut out of the billing of your cast list, especially when you're placing with like Jason Clarke, Cody Smith with McPhee, these actors that are not box office draws. But I mean, the end result's incredible. Dawn is, like I said, the biggest plus for it is just that it does so well on both sides, where so many other movies, especially Rise, like I just talked about, make the humans look so aggressively evil and stupid and dumb, which I get it. The point, especially in the earlier ones, satirical spoof, want to make it really hammering that point. But that's why Dawn's so fascinating to me, because it really gives you both sides. And you're like, when you see these humans, like, because Jason Clarke, like you see him in so many movies as like this villainous guy, but there's nothing wrong with him here. And there's so many of them that you're just like caring for, and you're hoping they're okay. You see them like, revive Caesar, and I think it just does so well at showing both sides and then leading us into war.
And yeah, war. I mean, we could just jump into war, I guess. Even like between War and Dawn, I think Matt Reeves, there are so many like really like intimate and like really like emotional moments that like don't necessarily need to be in the movie. Like that one scene in War where the ape gives the little girl, he puts the flower in her ear. Mm-hmm. Like I wish filmmakers like weren't afraid of just giving us those like small emotional scenes that don't necessarily progress the plot, that like allow you to sympathize and empathize with our characters, because they're so beautiful. I texted you guys last night, I think, unless I made this up, just saying like I don't remember War being this sad. And like sad was the wrong word. I think emotional would have been a better word, because I wasn't necessarily sad. They were just a lot of cute moments that really allowed me to connect with our apes and even our humans in this movie. Which again, I think that's what the original 5 kind of lack. I don't find myself connecting on an emotional level with like Cornelius and Ziri the way I do with Caesar and I'm so sorry, I don't know what the little girl's name is.
Nova.
Yeah, in the movie. But yeah, I think War it's not necessarily this like massive epic conclusion that you would necessarily expect. Like there isn't really like this full on war. Like there's obviously conflict. You have your action sequences. But like at the end of the day, and I mean, spoilers, sorry, but I'm going to spoil the movie. Like there's no like massive final battle between Caesar and what's his face, the Colonel. It's like a very like, it's a very sad ending what happened to the Colonel, and Caesar as a character didn't want to be the one to end his life, even though he was taken over by the virus. Caesar was like, here, I'll let you do it yourself. Like there's nothing left. And it was just a very emotional moment. And like, I understand why that would turn people off. There wasn't like this massive end fight between Caesar and the Colonel that you may have expected. It was a very small, kind of like a very quick scene. And that's a massive, like, in my mind, that's a huge risk Matt Reeves took. And I wish filmmakers like in that sense, like did that more often, where they just give us like this very like emotional, small scale ending to what you maybe thought was going to be like this massive final battle between our 2 main characters, ape versus human. But yeah, I really like this movie. You'll see like in my rankings how highly I rate it, but like spoilers, not really a spoiler. I go back and forth so often between which one I think is better, Dawn or War. I think they're both fantastic. I think they both complement each other very well. War is like a really awesome look at like this world expanding down the line, where like Caesar and his apes, they're kind of in like a hideout while there's this like militia base led by the Colonel and Woody Harrelson, who are like just all they're trying to do is find Caesar. And Caesar kind of goes on this like sacrificial journey to like protect his clan of apes. So it's a really awesome ending. I really love this trilogy. I think it's fantastic. And I think War is just such a good emotional gut punch type ending. And I'm sure one of you will mention it, but I'll also mention it. I do think Woody Harrelson is a little silly in this movie. But it's like a funny, silly, like he's got like his dark glasses and like he takes them off and it's like he's trying to be badass, but it comes off like a little corny. But like I feel like he was like the perfect character, the perfect actor to like play this role, because you kind of like, it's a movie about apes. You have to embrace your corniness somehow, even if you want to keep a serious tone. And I think Woody Harrelson balanced that really well, where he really was like this very intimidating presence. Especially when he was just talking to Caesar about like what happened to his son and how he killed Caesar's son. And he was basically saying like he said something that made Caesar like freak out and like attack him. And it was very menacing, but like you mentioned in your Letterboxd review, it was also like a little like Apocalypse Now spoofy, which like I read that again before I rewatched the movie. So that was in the back of my head. And I was like, yeah, Tyler hit the nail on the head on that. Like they even had like the black face paint in the beginning of the movie. There was like a shadow across Woody Harrelson's face throughout this entire like movie. So it was very like Apocalypse Now-esque, but it was like very spoofy a little bit. But yeah, I love this ending. Super emotional. Caesar, GOAT character, one of my favorite character arcs ever.
Yeah, and the Apocalypse Now, it's not even subtle either, like you said. Because when I'm watching it, they do so many nods to it with the Colonel, and then like right after that, they go through the cave, and you see like written on the cave wall, it says like Apocalypse Now, and it's like I mean, I wish they would have trusted the audience a little bit there and just be like, we could pull all the inferences that is trying to be an apocalypse now with the Colonel, without them just blatantly saying Apocalypse Now on the wall and being like, okay, I get it, you're doing Apocalypse Now. But Bad Ape is cool as hell, man. Like Bad Ape is awesome. So heartbreaking. Like I was just like got the name Bad Ape because like when you watch it and you see a guy in the cast named Bad Ape, you're like, oh, is this going to be the dude that's going to like ruin stuff for the apes? And it's like no, he was just told his whole life he was a bad ape, so you thought his name was Bad Ape. You're like, holy fuck!
I've seen so many tweets about it this week, like so many about him this week.
Bad Ape is he's cool, man. Steve Zahn is the guy who like does the motion capture and voices him, which I didn't know until I looked at the cast, because to me, like the breathy voice of him, I totally thought it was Mark Rylance the whole time. I thought it was Mark Rylance.
I get that. Yeah.
I thought the same thing. I even looked it up immediately after hearing his voice.
Yeah, I get that.
Mark
Rylance. Steve Zahn, he did it. Wow.
I couldn't believe it wasn't Mark Rylance. But it's kind of funny how often like a franchise, a trilogy, or like a sequel, I guess, to Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, but you see it in like Iron Man 3, and you see this trope come up all the time where it's like Caesar kills Koba in the last movie, and now he's like haunted by these images of Koba. He's having like panic attacks and nightmares of Koba haunting him. And, you know, it's kind of something it's a little tropey, but it works well. And the reason I like it in this is because we can see more Koba, and like, obviously he's killed off and Don, but Koba is incredible. Toby Kebbell's incredible. So I'm happy to get more Koba in this through way of like nightmare visions. But yeah, I don't know. This movie just doesn't connect for me the same way Dawn does, and I don't know really what the reason for that is. Woody Harrelson, I think, is fine, and in his role, it humanizes him quite well with obviously the sad fate of his kid, and kind of gives some understanding as to why he's in this crazy state now and what he's trying to accomplish. Some cool moments in like the final, not really battle, but like with they're like in the imprisonment, and then like the what's that season that was about to get rocket launched, and then he had the other dude like turn on the guy and kill the guard instead, and like that was a cool moment. But yeah, and all these movies are starting to blend together for me at this point. But War for the Planet of the Apes, I really like the aesthetic because I'm a big snow guy. Anytime there's snow in a movie, I'm going to be a big fan.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Dawn just connected with me so hard. And
it's crazy because you live in the hottest country, in the hottest state in the country.
Yeah, fuck Arizona. But so really like Dawn. War didn't hit for me as hard, but I've seen Dawn 3 times now, and I think War I've seen twice. But one of those times was in theaters in 2017. Second time was like yesterday, 2 days ago. So again, and I said the same thing with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I would really be interested to see how well these age if I just dive in one at a time as opposed to like cramming them all in. Because I think War and Kingdom definitely suffered the effects of being a little lower rated due to me being aped out. But I think like Escape, even like I think that could even be higher if I just watched that on its own on one of the original ones. So I think some of my ratings suffered in terms of, I think all my ratings suffer in terms of being aped out, but I'm hoping when we get in our rankings, like the order still is right. Like I think the order is where I want it to be, but in terms of like what the ratings are, I don't care as much of those as I do care about like how they're stacked, just because I think cramming all these in was not good for the later ones, especially from what my ratings were. But War's cool.
Yeah, I still I had a phone call, but most of what you guys said covered kind of what I was going to say anyway. I like War probably more than Tyler. I do actually really like War. I think it's a little bit messy, especially in the middle. I think Dawn is very much a tighter script in general, but War kind of has this emotional bleakness to it and this conclusion that I do really appreciate. And I think, like George said, it's not quite as like big as you maybe expect it to be, especially on first watch. I remember watching the first time thinking about this huge scale, whatever. But I quite like that quaint notion to it, and I like what Tyler said with kind of Caesar and kind of the flashbacks and PTSD. But I do think it's a little bit messier. I do think it's a slight step down, but I also think it's kind of the emotional conclusion that the modern day trilogy deserved. And I do think they followed on quite well. I also, like Tyler said, I do love the settings. I do like snowy shit because it just looks fucking cool, doesn't it? Like the apes in the snow with the guns and stuff. Like, who doesn't like that? But yeah, we'll move on to our rankings. I mean, we could just, do you want to just go like, say 10-6 and then just do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 again?
Works for me.
Yeah. George, 10-6.
9-6 for me because I didn't see Kingdom.
Oh yeah.
So my 9 at a 1 star was Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Disappointing conclusion. My number 8 at a 1.5 stars was Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Just a really shitty sequel. My number 7 is Tim Burton's 2001 Planet of the Apes at a 2 star. And my number 6. Don't be too happy. It's the same rating. My number 6 also at a 2 star is Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
My mental health just aligned on that rating.
That's fair. Understandable.
Tyler, 10-6.
Yeah, like I said, don't pay too much attention to the stars, more the ranking and stack ranking of them. But number 10, I have Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes at a 1.5. Number 9, Battle for the Planet of the Apes at a 1.5, and those two are as neck and neck as could be for me. 8, Beneath the Planet of the Apes at a 2.5. 7, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes at a 2.5, and 6, Rise of the Planet of the Apes at a 3.
Okay, my 10 is Tim Burton's at 1.5. My 9 is Battle at 2.5. My 8 is Beneath at a 3. My 7 is Rise at a 3, and my 6 is Conquest at a 3.5. George, you want to go 5, and then we'll just go around.
Yeah, 5 is Conquest for me at a 2.5. Shout out Caesar.
Wow, you have Conquest higher than me. Crazy. That's cool.
5 for me.
Crazy.
5 for me is Katpata, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and I'll talk about when I get to number 4. I've already today switched 5 and 4 5 times back and forth, so I have no clue. But number 5 is
what did you just call it?
Katpata, Kotpota.
Great. My 5 is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. That's a 4-star.
My number 4 at a 3.5 star is Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Number 4 for me is War for the Planet of the Apes, and that's what I just keep going back and forth with, Kingdom and War. Just keep flipping back and forth, and I think neither of them I'll be able to sit comfortably on until I rewatch both of them on their own without being stuffed in with so many other Planet of the Apes. But number 4 for me is War of the Planet of the Apes.
My 4 is Escape from Planet of the Apes. These names are shit, aren't they?
So Donald.
Worst name.
Escape, a 4-star, top 3 now.
Yeah, my number 3 at a 4-star is the original 1968's Planet of the Apes.
Number 3 for me is Escape from the Planet of the Apes at a 3.5 star that I could easily see going up to a 4.
My number 3 is War. Is it War for the Planet? Is that the only one that's
War 4?
No,
we have
Battle
War 4.
War.
Escape from.
Escape from Battle. Yeah,
Beneath
Battle.
the.
Wow, these guys are crazy.
Dumb as shit, dude.
Yeah, I have War for Planet of the Apes, a 4-star at 3.
Now we do 2 and 1.
Yeah, it's
2
1.
My 2 at a 4-star, I could easily go up to a 4.5 star, is War for the Planet of the Apes. And my number 1 at a 4.5 star is obviously Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
My 2 is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes at 4, but it's so odd because I'm so aped out right now, but I already want to rewatch that one. Like, I do like it so much.
I
so
do, weirdly. Yeah.
I think that actually could be like a 4.5. And like I said, and obviously number 1's Planet of the Apes, 1968. And I said when I watched it, I'm like, I don't think anything can top this for me, but Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, man, I don't know why I'm sitting here aped out of my mind right now, not wanting to touch another Apes movie. Yet I'm like, I would turn on Dawn of the Planet of the Apes right now and rewatch it. Like that's the 4 right now, but that's gonna move up. I don't think Riley's seen it, so I'll save it until Riley wants to watch him again because she's only seen Rise with me. But yeah, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes rips. But that's number 2. Number 1 is the OG 1968 Planet of the Apes.
Is that a 4 as well? Or is that 4.5?
4.5, sorry.
Okay. My same as Tyler, my 2 is Dawn, which probably I kind of want to watch as well. I could go up to 4.5. I do like I have both Dawn and War of 4, which kind of in my head I don't like, you know what I mean? Because I do like Dawn more. But then again, 4s can be the same, but I think I like Dawn significantly more. So I do see that maybe going up. And then 1 is the original at a 4.5. So all different. Oh wait, cams. Tyler, do you have cams?
I do have cams. So I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'll just go all the way 10 through 1. 10 is Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. 9, Beneath the Planet of the Apes. 8, Battle for the Planet of the Apes. So interesting. Battle above Beneath. 7, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. 6, Escape from the Planet of the Apes. 5 is Rise of the Planet of the Apes. 4 is Kingdom. 3 is the OG. 2 is War. 1 is Dawn.
Oh, yes. Kingdom at 4. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, that was our rankings.
His poster selections are so silly, too, for a lot of these.
Oh, my God.
I
Sorry, you Rise one, not the green one. Like the fucking so dumb, man. It's crazy. So that was our Planet Apes rankings. Comment down below. Let us know yours. And we'll move on to our movie news of the week, to which there is one thing on our rundown. And George put Fantastic Four, Ralph Innocent.
What's his name? I'm sorry. I didn't.
Ralph Ineson. George, you know this. You like The Witch. You like Green Knight.
I'm
He's the
sure
guy.
I know him. I just don't know what the
Nah,
fuck he looks like.
He's fucking fantastic. You'll know his voice. That's what you'll know.
What? Hold on. The Witch. Now I gotta look this motherfucker.
He's the
up.
dad in The Witch.
No, I know who he is. I just need to know it. Oh, Ineson.
Innocent.
Ralph.
He's not French. It's Innocent.
Ineson.
So he's been cast as, what was he cast as? Galactus.
What?
Galactus. That's a cool casting though. He actually is like a really good actor, and also he has the voice of like the stereotypical villain. So I actually like that. Looking at the, I don't know anything about Fantastic Four, much anyway, other than the old films. Looking at the cast, it does look good. Like they've actually, I think they've succeeded in the casting choices for these, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, but I don't really know much about.
Great cast.
Yeah, I think it's a good cast. Obviously, like it's easy to nail looks. It's going to come down to their acting, of course.
They're all good actors. I mean,
but they're all good actors. Like I don't expect Vanessa Kirby or Pedro Pascal to put on a bad performance.
Yeah, and I think maybe Pedro Pascal was a bit of a safe pick, but I think they went for some like maybe different-ish options than the obvious choices from what I saw on Twitter, which is always nice. Other than Pedro Pascal, but he is a really good actor, so it doesn't really matter. But that'll kind of be it today. So for the real quick, this week I believe it's going to be Bean.
Yeah, I don't know.
So Bean, I don't think I'll be there because I know you guys are going to have to record tonight, which is a shame because Bean is in my favorites list all the time. So I'll be. I'll predict some ratings right now. Tyler 1.
Oh God.
No, Tyler 1. No, Tyler 2. George 2.5. Cam 3. There we go.
I think
4.5.
I think 2.5 from me is high. I do
really?
not. Like,
I thought these were beloved movies. I don't know.
I'm sure they're beloved, but
like,
I'm so sorry, Seth. I cannot stand Mr. Bean. I think his style of comedy is so shit.
Anna to say I was watching Mr. Bean's Holiday yesterday, just having the time of my life. And Anna walked in and she was like, "Mr. Bean is so shit."
Like I probably just lost so many UK followers saying that, but yeah, I think
not
Mr.
really,
Bean is so not funny.
It's not as loved as honestly. I know loads of people don't like Mr. Bean.
George,
I hope I'm wrong. I hope I enjoy it.
George,
you should have watched it a Holiday. That's a bit better as far as I'm concerned.
What are these two things you put in the rundown at the top? The ranking film talkers and the 21 Pilots and Billie Eilish. Those things you wanted to touch on?
I just put bullshit in the rundown.
Okay.
But I mean,
who won, Kendrick or Drake? Who won, Kendrick or Drake?
Huge shit. May 17, 21 Pilots and Billie Eilish dropping an album. Insane day. I might take off from work that day just to experience that. And then ranking film talkers by how much we'd want to spend a weekend with them. Obviously, you three are atop my list. Alex would be right there. Sophie, love you. I spend enough time with you already.
Sammy's the guy.
Sammy, yeah, obviously Sammy, Kevin, K Meeks, Doug, Owen. I don't know about a weekend with Doug, Owen, but maybe like
the group chat. Just the group chat.
The group chat.
Shout out some English people as well. Just say I see all the fucking time anyway.
Does Sophie post enough on TikTok to call her a film talker anymore? I see she's averaging one per month.
Sophie is the most famous person, I think, with 5K followers in the world.
Yeah.
Like do you know what I mean? In the film space. Am I wrong in saying that?
Sophie's been recognized a few times over the last like month or two at a couple of our screenings.
My point exactly. Like honestly, but yeah, that's probably the order. Just people who you would have guessed. Who won, Kendrick or Drake? People have been asking us to say it.
Kendrick, without
obviously. If you say Drake,
guess.
Tyler, did you say Drake?
I said Kendrick. I've only heard.
Oh,
I've only heard.
You said Drake.
I've only heard Drake's latest, and then one of Kendrick's. Not like us. I haven't.
Go and listen to like.
I've been following it so minimally. But Kendrick won.
Bodying Drake right now.
Who
would have expected any different? Just like look at their discographies, man. It's crazy. But like,
their catalogs. Kendrick washes.
I'm trying to think of like an easy comparison for someone like me who's not that into the rap sphere. But it's like Drake's obviously way more commercially successful, and Kendrick's more like better at his craft. So it's like, what's like a good comparison?
Well, Drake's made like one good project, I would argue, in the last since 8 years.
Here's a comparison for you, Tyler, and we'll keep it in the movie sphere. No. I'm going to keep it in the music sphere. Sorry. God, this might go viral on
Trigger people.
Well, actually, this is the clip. Wait, go.
I don't even know if I want to say it. Drake is Taylor Swift, and Kendrick Lamar is Billie Eilish. They are both very commercially successful, but in terms of like actual talent, one is miles ahead of the other.
I kind of get that. I do get that because they're both like very, very famous or successful, and they're both bringing crazy.
They're both very famous. They are both commercially successful, and you will not take that away at all from Drake and Taylor. They are two of the most commercially successful artists we've ever seen. But in terms of actual talent and whose like catalog is better,
Kendrick might be the GOAT.
Washes Drake
Kendrick
and
might be the GOAT.
2 albums washes anything Taylor's ever put out. And Kendrick also, I think, might be the greatest to ever do it.
And I'm trying to see, has Kendrick Lamar won an Oscar before? Because that could be another. No, he was nominated. Okay, never mind. I was gonna say that
he was nominated
plays into comparison Oscar? Even better for All the Stars.
What?
Black Panther.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, I forgot he even did a song.
No, All the Stars, Black Panther, but he lost to Shallow Stars Born. But I was gonna say plays in your comparison even better because Billie Eilish wins Oscars, and I don't think Taylor Swift won any. I'd be shocked if she did. Maybe Cat.
In the last 10 minutes, I just lost all of my UK followers and everyone that stands Drake and Taylor Swift.
Wait, why is the UK?
Mr. Bean. I'm telling you, man, Mr. Bean is not that loved here. I'm telling you.
It's not like you said like Ratatouille's bottom tier Pixar. That would be the real nail in the coffin.
Ratatouille is, to be fair, the highest rated on Letterboxd, like in general.
Thought you were literally about to be Ratatouille. To be fair, is bottom tier Pixar.
How dare you?
Crazy quote.
That'd be a crazy. But yeah,
wrap us up.
Yeah, Kendrick's better than Drake. Anyway, just to continue. What am I saying? I've lost track of time.
Bye.
Okay, thank you for listening. Shout out our executive producers, Stefan Johnson, Stefan Niebrick, and Sean Morales. We appreciate you guys. Remember to like, share, all that good stuff. Go on TikTok, share our stuff, and try and get us out there because it helps. And if George's clip makes it onto about Taylor Swift, then share the shit out of it and get some, hate for George because it's always good. We appreciate you guys listening. Next week we will be.
We don't know.
We might be covering some A24 films next week to celebrate I Saw the TV Glow coming out, and then we'll have a review for that. Or I won't anyway. But we appreciate you guys listening anyway, and we'll see you all soon.
Peace.